Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. It's your favorite YouTuber, That One Weeb here, back at it again to drop What If Deku Had the System. One of anime's coolest power systems in a while. I mean, the dude is able to literally complete quests and level up. It's such a simple power system, but the things that it grants him access to are insane. We're talking speed buffs, strength buffs, spells, stealth, and who could forget aura farming, like the moments where he turns his opponents into his literal shadow army. It's so sick, and I did this What If a long time ago. You guys could go check that video out, but it's gonna be nothing like this one. Today, I'm being joined by That One Weeb, and after actually watching the series this time around, safe to say, I think we actually did an incredible job providing entertaining content for today. So if you guys go on to enjoy today's video, then definitely be sure to go check out That One Weeb's channel since he helps out a ton with these videos. But without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy. All right, so we're going to be beginning this story at the beginning of the My Hero Academia story. In this specific timeline, everything is going to be flipped on its head, because not only is Izuku going to be the sole inheritor of the solo leveling system, but he's also going to be living in a world where everybody else also has mana. Am I saying it right? Wait,
yeah, it's mana.
Mana, yeah, mana. So everybody else is going to be having mana, and it's not like it's only going to be the quirkless population. Certain heroes, which are already busted, and people with weird quirks are going to be gaining abilities to become hunters. Now, why are we doing this? Honestly, me and Weeb just kind of had a phone call before this thing started, and we thought of just some really cool and funny scenarios that could happen. So we figured we'd start the entire series off by explaining that, unfortunately, Deku's not going to be the only one with the power. But if you really think about it, he really might as well be, considering no one's going to be able to touch him by the end of the series.
Yeah, I don't think it's a huge loss. I think if anything, it's cool because we can see how like the system of quirks and how like awakened hunters interact. Something we were talking about before this is just like how pro heroes with abilities from soul leveling, if they were awakened, would work. I'm not going to spoil anything since we're getting into the first arc, but I think you guys will enjoy what we've planned in store for some of your favorite characters. So,
Absolutely.
Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I can start us off, and I think that a cool thing to do is I'm going to be breaking everything down to the moment where they get into the dungeon, and then you can take us off after that. Is that cool?
Sounds fantastic. Let's get into it.
All right, bet. All right, so here's what we're thinking is going to happen. Just like in the original, Izuku is still going to be born quirkless, but his counterpart, Bakugo, isn't. In this specific timeline, Bakugo not only is going to be an inheritor of his quirk explosion, but he's also going to be having the added bonus of having an awakening in this world. Now, his awakening is not going to be the craziest thing in the world. I don't remember. Did we say C or B? What were we
thinking making him a C tier.
A C tier.
If we make him too high, yeah, because if we make him too high, then that could interfere with some story elements later. So I think C's pretty fair. Yeah,
I think
but
that's
he still
fair
has his
too.
explosion quirk. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, bet.
So
yeah,
he's really like performing at a B rank hunter's level, but he's only rated as a C rank.
No, if anything, he'd be performing like at an A or S rank. No, because he is young.
Well,
he's
still,
yeah,
he's still a kid.
But later on, the dude's going to be performing at easily an S rank hunter level, and that's like just his quirk, if that's all he had. But anyways, continuing forward with what I was already kind of laying down, when this happens, we're going to pretty much be getting a world in which Izuku, just like in the original timeline, he gets bullied by everybody else, but now, not only is he living in a weird world where people inherit quirks, which is 85% of the population, but now Izuku's living in a world where people who didn't even have quirks before, who were in a situation where they literally were losers just like him, started awakening abilities. And Izuku would just get more and more desperate every day, thinking that, well, if I can't awaken a quirk, then maybe I could be a hunter. But as time passed, nothing happened, and Izuku could just remember his best friend Bakugo being able to go to dungeons by the time that they were already in middle school. It was insane. There's no way that Kacchan should have been able to also have an awakening on top of an incredible quirk. Izuku couldn't help but be jealous, thinking that he wishes he had at least something. But
if only I could be strong too.
Literally, that's exactly what it would sound like. You know what I mean? We would then get the scene where the pro heroes are stopping like the gigantic villain in the first episode. Izuku's walking to school, and we would get the whole cutscene and everything like that. At this point, I can kind of just see Zuko not only seeing a monster in this timeline, but looking towards his left and seeing a blue portal leading into like a train station or something. And everybody's around there, and he sees the hunters, and they're wearing their armor and stuff. And Izuku just can't help but like look away. He tries looking at the heroes, but nothing. And Izuku's just thinking to himself that he can't wait until later, that he has to go into a dungeon. Because not only is Izuku finally awakened, but when he did awaken, he was even weaker than he was before. The dude awakened, but now he's an E-rank hunter, as most of you guys could expect.
E-rank hunter.
Without a quirk.
Genetic loss of the lottery right there.
Bro has literally never worked out a day in his life.
That's what I'm saying.
It's bad. And because of the fact that he's dealt with the same circumstances as Sun Jin Woo, this dude is pretty much cooked. And later he has to go into a dungeon. Bakugo in this timeline wouldn't be bullying Izuku for trying to go to the national school, but instead he'd try to bully him into submission to not go into the gate. Because A, Bakugo is absolutely tired of constantly having to protect Deku. Now here is where I'm going to pass the mic, we explain why.
Absolutely. So like Xehther was just talking about, Bakugo is pretty protective of Izuku, and that's why he's trying to push him to not be a hunter. So kind of like a foil to how Jinhee was with Jinu, where she's pushing him not to do this. Bakugo kind of understands. So when Deku and Bakugo were kids and Izuku finally awakened, after Bakugo had his quirk and his awakening, to be an E-rank hunter, his mom, as we know, Mama Midoriya, she would fall ill with the eternal sleep disease. That's right. Not only do we have hunters and the system coming into this world, but also the side effects of that, meaning that mana poisoning or the eternal sleep disease is now in My Hero Academia as well. And unfortunately, his mother would be affected by it. However, just like in the original, while we have the Hero Association, who is now responsible for both heroes and hunters, or the HH Association, they also have those same benefits that they offered Jinwoo in his timeline, where we have Deku now having to work as a hunter to maintain the medical bills for his mom and to keep her alive. Luckily, he doesn't have a younger sister like Gina, so he's only looking out for himself, but still, he's putting himself in danger just to protect her and his only family. Bakugo kind of respects this, but at the same time, he wonders why someone so weak and insignificant is trying to push themselves this hard. He essentially sees him as telling him to give up. So, with Deku entering into the dungeon, this would be an almost daily occurrence with him going to school, being pretty beat up and having wounds all over him.
Would be such a cool plot point? That Izuku has to go into the dungeons because he's allowed to go into a dungeon as a hunter, but he's not allowed to go into the dungeon as a miner. So he can't even make money doing basic jobs. And because of his age,
I think he can though.
He can't even. No. In this timeline, and because of his age, he's not able to work either. So this is literally all he has. It's either this or he gets sent to a straight up orphanage and his mom dies. Like,
yeah.
He has
pretty cruel.
Literally no choice. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, aside from that too, dungeons are even more like exclusive than just being a hero, because like in solo leveling, they provide a lot of materials such as energy and magic crystals that support the world economy. And not to mention, it's even rarer to be awakened than it is to have a quirk, with only about 8 million hunters in the entire world existing, which for reference, there is like 9 billion people. That is significantly smaller than the 85% ratio of having a quirk. So Deku both feels like a sense of responsibility even though he's just an E-rank, and with his mom's life on the line. So we're going to be getting into the dungeon. Shall we get into the dungeon that starts it all?
Absolutely,
AKA,
bro. I really want you to
dungeon.
cover it. I really want you to cover it, not because like I'm like, oh, I don't want to cover it, but I want to just sit here from a fan perspective and listen to the story. Like, what do you think would happen?
From a fan perspective.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be good. So, like we've been talking about, Deku's been going into gates, and this is pretty much his only solution so far. He's been severely injured by weak monsters like goblins.
Dude,
and we see Bakugo coming in and defending him.
Can I start it before they get into the actual dungeon, like middle school day? All right, bet. All right, so I just had this really cool idea. So obviously we know that after the whole villain incident in the morning, Deku goes to school, yada yada yada. The teacher hands out the career aptitude tests. After this happens, I don't think I'm gonna see a scene where Bakugo blows Deku's desk up. Instead, he just kind of looks at him angrily, and when he turns back around, he would kind of have like a bit of a sad expression on his face. He's like, damn it, Deku, why do you do this to yourself? He would just be thinking this because a couple of months ago, Bakugo was still bullying Deku and treating him like absolute garbage, but then he found out the truth, that his mom is in the hospital and he has no other choice. So it'd be from that point on that Bakugo started like loosening up on his behavior towards Deku.
I could see it. I could see why, like how he finds out too. So maybe Izuku would be at the hospital and Bakugo would be going in to like kind of pick on him for getting stabbed by a goblin or just being weak. And he goes into the, like, he looks for the room with Midoriya and he walks into the wrong one, and it's just Izuku's mom just lying there, like slowly dying.
And you just see Deku, bro, you just see Deku on his hands and knees just crying, thinking, Mom, I'll get stronger, I swear. And then you just have Bakugo like covering his mouth and just thinking like, yeah, I've been bullying this kid.
Yeah, I think that's a big point too, because Bakugo is kind of like aggressive, but he still tries to do the right thing, even like if sometimes that is borderline criminal.
Yeah.
So I think he would have some mercy on Izuku after knowing that situation, you know?
Yeah, you know what's funny? Had this been like any other what if, like on some dark stuff, I'd still make Bakugo bully Deku, but we're gonna give him a heart in this timeline, you know? But anyways, because of that, Bakugo's not going to be bullying Deku, and instead just like completely did a 180 where like he bullies him.
Well, he's still like harassing him. Yeah. It's just instead of him bullying him like physically, because he's already bruised up enough from the dungeon. We have Bakugo encouraging him, basically saying, you should get the hell out of here. Like, why are you here? Or I'll take it, or I'll fight the monsters. You just sit back and watch.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Where he's like trying to discourage Izuku from going into the dungeons, but he knows he doesn't even, he can't also at the same time. You know what I mean? Because Izuku needs the money. He has no other way to make money for at least 2 years because he's still 14.
And the Hunter Association needs hunters because they're so rare. And if dungeons break, even heroes without magic power can't stop them. So they kind of have to send anyone who's willing to go in to fight.
Yeah, and even if heroes could go into the dungeons, hypothetically, it would just be, or villains came out, they could fight against them with magical tools. The problem is, like, most heroes aren't suited to combat with little weapons. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, well there's part of that too. I just one of the issues with magic weapons is that they break quickly. So even if like All Might, for example, let's say he wasn't awakened, well, we haven't gone there yet. Let's say he isn't awakened for the sake of this argument. If he's using a big broadsword and it can only take 10 swings and he's fighting a big army of magic beasts, he's kind of cooked. That's all. But let's get into the story because we've been discussing enough and I'm sure the people want to get further ahead before
generational yapping. Literally generational yapping.
That is what I'm known for.
Yeah.
So, anyway, into the dungeon we go. Bakugo, of course, would be going into this dungeon as well, with it just being a regular D-rank dungeon.
I wasn't done.
You weren't done yapping?
I wasn't done yapping. I wanted to talk about the sludge villain. Okay, hear me out. I'm gonna wrap it up pretty quickly.
Is crazy.
I have to. I thought of something really cool. All right, hear me out. So after school happens, you know, Deku and Bakugo both know they're gonna go to a dungeon. You have Bakugo's friends surrounding him, going, "Hey, Bakugo, heard you're going to a dungeon today. You're gonna make a lot of money after school, aren't you?" Bakugo would be smirking, saying, "Yeah, it's just a D-rank dungeon, but I'm pretty glad I get to work on my quirk and my awakened powers, so it's gonna be pretty fun." After this, you would just kind of have Deku hearing about this and kind of like wincing, thinking, "Guess I have to go into another dungeon." You would just get this slow scene where Bakugo walks over towards Deku and goes, "Hey, Deku, But then, you know, Deku just grabs his things and says, "I'm sorry, Bakugo. I really have to go. You're not going to change my mind about the dungeon." And then we just get this scene where Bakugo watches Deku step out. Then we could get this moment in time where Deku makes the same path home. He takes a shortcut because he wants to get a meal in before he goes to the dungeon. And we would just have Bakugo who was like following Izuku, you know? And we would get the sludge villain basically pop up. Bakugo ends up saving Izuku in this timeline because All Might wasn't around. Now there's dungeons. Like, All Might can't exactly just be focusing on everything other than that. He's actually in dungeons in this timeline because he is a rank healer.
Yeah, he is. Okay. So just to get a little bit ahead of before we get into the double dungeon incident, like Xehther was talking about, we decided to make All Might a awakened hunter, but just like our Kim Song, the hunter who joined the the dungeon the first time, who trained as a swordsman and became a mage hunter, All Might would have awakened as like this brawler monk type character to be a healing type hunter. So he doesn't have any offensive magical abilities, but he can heal himself and others. Which, you know, that's pretty interesting. I think that's a good character. It kind of suits him.
It makes him also a lot stronger too because of his injury.
Yeah, because he can heal himself after All for One's attack, which happened before the Awakenings.
Absolutely.
For reference, we didn't really talk about this. The Awakenings and Gates appeared around 10 years before the start of MHA's events with like the middle school and high school. So when Deku and Bakugo were children is when the Gates arrived and started occurring on the planet. But yeah.
So jumping back into what
villain.
I was setting up, we would get Bakugo saving Deku, blowing the sludge villain into a bunch of pieces because of the fact that he has the enhancements of being a hunter, and it just completely decimated the villain. After this, we would get a scene where Bakugo tells him, "Dang it, Deku, you're so useless. You can't even beat some damn sludge villain." You would just get Deku looking down, thinking, "I know, but..." As from here, Bakugo looks at him and says, "You're not gonna give up going on this quest, are you? Here." As he would hand him a blade, a pretty big sword, as Deku would look at it and say, "Gachan, are you..." As Bakugo would say, "I'm not gonna say it again, damn it. Just take the sword and meet me at the dungeon later. I'm gonna watch your back like usual. Just stay out of my way." As we would get an angry Bakugo walking away, as
Dude,
you know,
I love that.
yeah,
What?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let me
so
cook, bro. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying.
All right, but anyways,
all right,
then we get
keep
Deku going home, and this is where I hand you the reins, you know?
All right, so Sludge Villain has been turned to bits, hopefully reported to the police, otherwise they might be reforming later, who knows? But for now, the dungeon is awaiting. Deku would have his like Hunter Hero Association's phone, which everyone is provided to get called to dungeons, and he would get the alert, just as Bakugo had known about earlier. He'd grab the short sword that Bakugo had provided for him, this being way out of his league in terms of price, since Bakugo has both the benefit of having both his parents around and having the money coming out of dungeons since he's a C-rank hunter, so he can actually go into higher, more difficult dungeons and fight monsters and win. But regardless, Izuku would grab the sword, thanking Kachan in his mind, and grabbing a small backpack, knowing the last time that he had been trapped inside of a dungeon for hours at a time and had almost starved to death. He would follow the path using the maps on the phone before arriving in front of the gate. The gate would be swirling into this blue energetic mass, with himself, Baku, and a few other regulars there, with most of them being older or retired, or younger kids like himself and Bakugo. Altogether, there were about 10 hunters, which would be more than enough for a weak D-rank gate like this. Although, considering he was an E-rank, even D-rank gates were scary and life-threatening. Once everyone arrived, Bakugo would naturally be picked as the leader for this group since he is a C-rank hunter, making him one of the highest level at the association level, since most guilds, like the Hunter and Hero Association teams, aren't going to be picking out of minors to join them as sidekicks. For reference, for my solo leveling fans, I think guilds are kind of going to be replaced here with the companies that heroes run. So like the internships we saw of Gran Torino and Best Genus. Instead, these would be like miniature guilds with large heroes running them and recruiting both hunters and heroes to join them to take on villains and gates. So instead of having like 5 major guilds like we have in solo leveling, we'll have multiple of these small guilds run by these pro heroes. But to continue, entering the gate. Once again, Zuko would be getting most of the stuffing beat out of him, with goblins slashing at him, and him actually taking down 2 of them with this sword that Bakugo gave him. He'd be impressed, wondering how expensive this thing must have cost, looking over at Bakugo as he's taking on a huge hobgoblin. I think at this point, we would see like the final quote unquote dungeon boss. And as everyone's taking it down with Bakugo getting the final blow, Izuku would have managed to grab a single small mana crystal. This being impressive since most of the time he came away with nothing. After having defeated the boss, Bakugo would see the set of doors behind them, with him turning to the rest of the group and saying, "Hey, it looks like this dungeon's not over yet. Do we want to keep going? I don't really want to go back and report this, because that smells like money to me." With him looking back at Deku before thinking, "But let's have a vote. If you want to head back, go out by yourself." Bakugo getting a little greedy after taking on that huge boss and thinking about how he might be able to buy another weapon.
Yeah, I could just see Bakugo like landing the last blow, being like, "Die!" You know what I mean? Like, you gotta add that stuff, bro. You have to.
I think, yeah, he definitely has a little bit of bloodlust, just like in the original. And I think he probably enjoys the hunter activities since he can be as brutal as he wants. So everyone would kind of discuss Xehther. And do you think that they're going to go into the dungeon? Are they going to keep going?
I think just like in the original, everybody's going to keep going into the dungeon. Like, I don't see a world where anyone says no, honestly. Because some people are going to get greedy about it. They're going to be like, yeah, with this guy here, we're guaranteed to make it past this dungeon, you know?
Yeah, like, think about how strong this kid is. Like, if we all go, we can make some serious cash here. I get it. So they're continuing into the double dungeon. Xehther, it's at this point where they would be walking for around 20 minutes. With the darkness encroaching upon them, Bakugo would be using his quirk in small sparks, creating flames. Although he is a mage-type hunter, he still relies mostly on his quirk since his mana isn't as high, but he can enhance his quirk using magic. This is something that we talked about a little bit, with Bakugo's type not being revealed. So yes, Bakugo is actually a mage-type hunter, with him specializing in fire magic, which improves his explosion's accuracy, range, and abilities by tenfold. But as we get closer to the end of the dungeon, we would find these grandiose doors, with two huge stone statues standing inside of it. Bakugo would turn back as he looks at Deku before pushing the doors open. As the group enters, they would be astonished. At the center of this massive room, if massive was a word for it, there would be a gigantic stone statue. This visage of a god, that's what it appeared to be, sitting on a throne in this kingdom. As the group walks forward, Bakugo would be, like we said, a mage class hunter, meaning he'd be able to read the ancient script that was often in slates within dungeons, just like the original. As Bakugo walks up to looking at the stone slate, he begin reading. "These are the rules of the Carthanon Temple. 1. Thou shalt praise God. 2. Thou shalt have faith in God. 3. Thou shalt..." Someone would turn around saying, "Screw this, I'm an atheist," as they walk out of the dungeon. As they're trying to, a stone statue would swing down.
What? What kind of reasoning is that? I'm an atheist? What? All right. Keep going, bro. Keep going.
As the older gentleman is trying to leave the dungeon, we would see
this dude just dies.
We would see as one of the stone statues would swing its axe down, chopping his head as it falls to the floor, blood pooling at his feet as the body slumps over. Bakugo would scream, "What the hell?" as everyone would turn around. Deku would be shocked. What? What just happened? I couldn't even see it! With him being shocked at what's happening, with one of their members having been instantly slaughtered by this magic beast or whatever it is. Anyway, thankfully, Bakugo would not have finished reading the instructions, but he'd quickly go back to reading it, with Deku asking Kacchan to finish what he was saying. Fine. 1. Thou shalt worship God. 2. Thou shalt praise God. 3. Thou shalt prove thy faith. 4. Those who fail to obey these commandments shall not be spared. Well, that sounds like a load of crap. As he turns around, realizing that this was the punishment for failing to worship, praise, and prove faith to God. At this point, every hunter inside would be freaking out, with them asking Bakugo to save them. Izuku would just be in shock still, with their teammate having perished already. It's at this point where everyone would look as the next member would try to escape. At this point, we would see the golden eyes of the statue beginning to ignite, as Bakugo and Deku both see it, with both of them screaming, "Everybody hit the dirt!" With the entire team who listened surviving. 2 hunters who had been trying to escape would have had their bodies eviscerated. The light from the giant stone statue having melted their forms. Deku would be shocked, thinking in his head at rapid speed, "Is there any way we can get out of this?" What do you think about that?
My only I like where this is going. My only grimace is Deku not looking at the statue and being like, "Kachan, its eyes.
Its eyes are moving.
Yeah. And then Bakugo being like, "Shut up, Deku. That thing has been staying still since we got here." You know what I mean? But yeah, keep going. I'm having a blast.
It's cool. It's cool. I like it. So this is where we're going to let Deku have a chance to shine. Since he's so analytical, I think just like how Song had in the original, we'll see him actually being the one to figure out the rules of the Carthanon temple and what they mean. Thou shalt worship God. So as they all realized, by lowering themselves to a certain point and dodging that attack, it proceeded to not attack anyone else. So Deku would think that there must be some sort of pose or height limit to where the statue will attack them. He also commented that none of the other statues, the ones with weapons, had begun to attack them, meaning that these rules must apply to everything inside the dungeon. Izuku would tell everyone, including Bakugo, asking that they need to bow to this stone god. Kachan would be pissed off, with Bakugo saying, "Ain't no way in hell I'm bowing to that thing. It's a monster. I should just go kill it." Bakugo would himself know that that's not realistic, seeing the attack that had completely slaughtered 3 of their teammates already.
Dog,
he would grumble,
I could see Bakugo saying that, and then the gigantic statue would smile at him, sending shivers down his spine. And he'd like just he grits his teeth and he's like, "Fine." He bows down.
Yeah, so the team all bows, and Izuku would be doing it for around 5 minutes, with suddenly everyone just beginning to stand. So one guy just like, "Okay, my knees hurt. We're giving this a shot." And after they had bowed for that amount of time, they had cleared the first rule, just like they had in the original. So the god, as Xehther just talked about, would be pleased, as it makes a horrifying grimace, a smile that would cause fear to shelter inside of Bakugo and Deku's heart, their spine cold. They would see this horrible grin. That was not the smile of a god, but of a demon lord itself. Everyone would watch as the stone would begin to move, putting its hands on its throne as it begins to stand, being over 100 meters tall. It would begin walking towards them. At this point, all the other kids who were around middle school or high school age would start screaming, asking, "What do we do now?" With everyone looking to Bakugo and towards Izuku, who had figured out the first rule. "What was the second rule?" Bakugo would shout it out to Deku again. "Thou shalt praise God." Praise. Izuku would be thinking, but he couldn't think of anything. Just get away from it for now. With everyone running around like rats on a mat, we would see the god chasing them as we would hear stomp, 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 stomp. We'd hear scream, then silence. Stomp, stomp. Izuku would be shouting, saying, "We have to do something!" with him looking around, thinking frantically as 2 more hunters had been taken out. They would see the statues. He'd be looking, seeing the ones with weapons and ones with musical instruments. At this point, another of the hunters would begin praying, with them pulling out a prayer for God. Xehther, do you want to hit us with it?
I'm not gonna say it. You're tripping. I ain't finna hit a prayer for this weak sauce deity.
Fair enough. All right. Anyway, just like in the original, someone would begin praying to the wrong god. In this case, they'd be praying to their god, and the stone statue would give 0 Fs, crushing them. Deku would scream out that it's not a god, it's not a good god. We need to find another way to praise it, with him running towards a harp. Bakugo would see him and mimic him. With now 5 of the 10 hunters dead, there were only 5 hunters remaining. As everyone now runs to a stone statue, we would see as the statues would begin singing, playing their instruments, as the stone statue would stop. With the 5 survivors watching, as it would then go, its face turning back to a frown before returning to its seat. With its face having returned to normal, it would look almost disappointed, as it hadn't been able to kill and finish off all of its prey. Now then, getting into the third rule, now that the statues had been sated, we would see as a huge altar in a circular pattern would rise from the ground. Everyone would begin bickering with them, saying they should put Bakugo in there, saying it's his fault that they are even here to begin with since he wanted to push here. Deku would even defend him, saying it was all of their choices, saying everyone had agreed to keep pushing forward. And at that point they looked to Deku, seeing as he was completely uninjured and the weakest among them. With this, they would get a little angry. With some of these being D-rank hunters, they'd say, fine, then you can go in the circle. Bakugo would hold his hand up, saying, wait before realizing that it would be him who would be picked if not Izuku. At this point, we see Bakugo gritting his teeth as the other three hunters would pick up Izuku, throwing him into the circle. At this point, we'd see a blue flame rise as the countdown timer would not yet start. Eventually, everyone would grumble and complain as they all enter into the circle. With the flames beginning to count down, the stone statues begin moving toward them, only if they weren't viewing them. Izuku would quickly figure this out, with his intelligence and combat intelligence being arguably higher than Sung, with him saying that if they make eye contact, they can survive this. What do you think happens next, brother?
Honestly, with the direction of the story, I think it eventually gets to a point where everyone would either leave Izuku there to be the last one running, and just like in the original, he dies and Bakugo leaves knowing that he literally left his childhood best friend to die. Or we would have the second option, which could be what I think we should actually end up choosing instead, which would be that unlike what you said, where he just pretty much tells everybody to get to the statues, we get a scene where another person makes it to a statue hiding from the beasts, and the music starts playing, and then Izuku says, everybody go to a statue, and we have Deku and Bakugo both close to one. They make it there, and Izuku's just thinking to himself, dang it, it's not. As you know, he pretty much ends up deciding that he's gonna be the one that goes in search of the next one. So Izuku would run off towards another statue with Bakugo saying, Deku, wait, but Deku already took off, and then we would get this scene where Deku's foot gets smashed by the gigantic thing, just like in the original.
Okay. You're making him like a good sacrifice is what I'm hearing.
Exactly.
Okay. I see it. We can go with that. I kind of like the choice of making Bakugo betray him for his own skin, but I'm cool with doing it like that. So either way, you guys can choose. If you want, if you like Bakugo, then we'll go with the foot not being ripped off and making Izuku a prime lamb.
I think regardless, he's gonna betray.
He's gonna leave him.
Yeah, he's gonna leave him.
That is one of the big themes of solo leveling and in this story is that you can only basically look out for yourself. No one's going to choose to save you over their own lives. So as everyone is leaving and it's just Bakugo and Izuku left, Izuku would look to Bakugo as the doors are pretty much about to close, with him saying, "Go, get out of here. I'll be fine." With him smiling, just like All Might. Bakugo would scream saying, I can't just leave you." But as the statues were getting closer and he was blasting magic at them, he wasn't leaving a scratch. He could feel it, the chill of death approaching him, as Bakugo would scream, "Izuku, I'm sorry," as he just explode flying into the air and leave for the doors, yelling at full pace as he gets out of the doors, with Izuku laughing as he holds the sword that Bakugo had bought for him, with him saying, "It's fine. It's good to die as a hero. That's what I always thought." But as his death would be approaching him, he'd see images of his mother, his father who had left them for milk and gone to America years ago, and all of the people he had known his entire life flashing before him. As the stone statues would be now surrounding him, Izuku would think in his heart, in his head, "It's not fair. Damn it. If I had a quirk, if I was stronger, I wouldn't be the one left behind here." And with that, the story would repeat itself, as the stone statue would stab it into Izuku's gut, his blood now covering his torso. As his eyes would spew blood, he'd get thrown into the air, tossed on top of the altar, blood coating it, as the final statue is about to swing its sword down. That is, until... Notification. Secret Quest, Courage of the Weak, has been completed. You've earned the right to become a player. Will you accept? If you choose not to accept, your heart will stop in 0.02 seconds. Will you accept?
What? And then we would get a scene where Izuku flashes back to the hospital.
Yeah, all right.
It'd be in this
All
moment
right.
that Izuku would wake up to the sight of 2 hunters from the association who are looking at him and pretty much questioning whether he has reawakened, telling him all the details about what was it called? The dungeon?
The double dungeon
Yeah.
incident.
Exactly. They'd be questioning Izuku and he'd be thinking, wait, maybe and as they scan him, he realizes nothing. I'm still the weakest hunter of all time. He'd look down as both of them would leave, and suddenly he'd think, why didn't they ask me about the screen? He'd think, whatever.
Yeah.
As unlike in the original with Sun Jin-woo not aware of what's going on, Deku's gonna know. Deku's 100% gonna be aware of what's going on as he goes to his inbox and checks what exactly this is all about. What happens here, Weeb? What are we thinking?
All right, so assuming that he's getting the standard system, he'd start off by reviewing the rewards from completing the quest Courage of the Weak, in which he had become a player, not knowing exactly what a player was. But he would have gained the ability of the Blessing of carthanon. The mage had given him an ability, this blessing preventing him from being affected by any poisons, toxins, or curses.
That
meaning
happened,
that he's
that happened
essentially
before
before
the first dungeon? Really?
Yep,
Oh,
that
dang,
was
I
a
didn't know
blessing that he got default with the system. Yep.
Okay, that's pretty
So
sick.
he gets that as well as the ability to regenerate when he's asleep. His regenerative ability increasing by tenfold. Even I think like he can. I think he regenerated his entire limb from when he was sleeping. He also had the daily quest now, which we'll get into, and I think I'll let that be yours, as well as the secret question mark ability and the dash skill, which he unlocked. The dash skill was also came with it, which allows Izuku to increase his speed by 50%. He'd be looking at all these rewards, now curious about the daily quest, which I'll hand over to you. So,
All right,
if you wanna
here's
look at that.
exactly what I'm thinking it's going to happen. After this would happen, we would get a scene where Izuku thinks, yeah, right, daily quest. It's not like a sick person's going to be able to do any exercise right now. And so Izuku would just let the time pass, not thinking much of it, just kind of looking at the stats that he has. As he
Bro
thinks to
is
himself,
allergic to exercise. He
Yeah.
would totally try and blow it up.
He just looks at it. He's like, wow, even my stats are weak. As, you know, more and more time would pass, and eventually as we inch closer and closer to the time that it's about to expire, we would get a scene where Bakugo gets told about the fact that Izuku's alive. It'd be at this point that Bakugo, having so much regret and having been overthinking everything that happened in the dungeon to this point, would be like, I gotta go see him, feeling horrible about everything. Bakugo would put on his usual outfit, making his way to the hospital, and just as he was outside of Izuku's room and he could see him through the window, Izuku would just disappear, with Bakugo thinking, what the heck? He would rush into the room saying, Izuku, where are you? You know, grasping around, trying to see if he could grab him, saying, did you go invisible or something? As,
Bro
you
got
know,
the stealth skill.
literally, we cut to Izuku, and he's just looking around, going, huh? What? He sees a gigantic centipede, and in this moment, he reads notification. Survive for 4 hours. As Izuku's like, what the heck? And he just starts running as hard as he possibly can. Izuku thinking, how the heck is this real? I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna wake up. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. He's running for his life. And we just cut to Bakugo, you know, talking to the nurses saying, hey, there was someone here just a bit ago. Do you know where? As, you know, they're telling him that he should have been there, and the hospital starts looking for him. Bakugo just thinks, dang it, Deku, wherever you went, at least you're alive. As he would say, I'll just come back tomorrow, or I'll see you whenever I get the chance. You know what I mean? He's just
Did
glad.
bro
That,
awaken a teleportation quirk?
yeah, something like that. He's just happy at the fact that he saw Izuku alive. And from what he could tell, he's pretty sure he had his foot too. In this moment, we would just get a scene where Izuku pretty much finally finishes his quest, and he would arrive back at the hospital looking so dehydrated. This man looks like death itself. As right after this, you best believe Deku's not taking these quests as a joke. Deku every single day would start doing the daily quests, and I say, how long was Sun Jin-woo in the hospital? Like 3 weeks, 1 week? How long?
It was for 1 week.
It was for 1 week,
or
really?
A week and a half. It was a week, or it was like a week and a half.
Let's say
Like
2.
roughly 2.
2 weeks, yeah. So after this would happen, I could easily see Izuku start doing his quests every day. And with that being the case, a week of quests, assuming that the daily quest gives us, how many points is it? it? Could you do the math for us?
So let's see. So we got 2 weeks. He gets 3 points to distribute every time he finishes the daily quest. And so we get 14 days, assuming he did it all correctly.
42 points.
Which is roughly 42 points, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a pretty strong amount, right? So at first he's going to want to experiment, right? We kind of talked about this a little bit. What points is he going to put into what?
So I think at the beginning, because he has 42 points, I can see Zuko like looking at all these things and feeling weak. I can easily see Zuko dumping like 20 of his
putting them
points.
all into strength.
No, actually that's true. I could low-key see that happening. Do you want to do that?
42 points into strength. Nothing else.
Yeah, we
actually,
got
let's do
to.
that.
We have to. Dude, it'd be so cool. It'd be kind of like a homage to what he does with One for All. He just like blows his body up.
Yeah, well, I mean, his body is built with the system, so he's definitely not going to be blowing it up with those stat points. Because unlike One for All, the system of makes his body stronger to match his power.
Yeah,
so
no,
it will,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you know,
I think 42
what I mean.
points in strength at first, when he's still trying to figure out if this system thing is like, he knows it's real, but he doesn't know how these stats work, right? So, and he's been called weak his entire life. The fact that there's a strength stat would be huge for him. So he'd definitely be focusing that at first, not even knowing about the benefits of things like agility or magic with intelligence. But
So
for now, let's
this
just say
dude
he dumps
is
into
now
strength.
gonna be 42 into
He's
strength.
got 52. He's
No,
got 10
42.
Points in everything. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
he's got
Oh, yeah,
42 points
52,
on
you're
top
right.
of his base 10. Yeah, so he's got 10 in everything and
Dude,
then 52 in strength.
You know what would be so sick? If Izuku... Okay, so we could do it 2 ways, where Izuku, like, after having collected all those points for those weeks, like, finally decides to put it, like, to use them, or every day he gets 3 points and adds them into strength. What do we
more
think?
likely.
That's more likely. So even though I would want to get a funny scene, I could definitely see Zuko putting 3 points into his strength category and just like kind of gripping like as hard as he can, feeling that he actually got a bit stronger. He feels like he went to the gym for a month. His body's slightly a little bit more toned. And Izuku would think, I guess this is real. Is this like an awakening or a quirk? He's not sure. But after this would happen,
I'm finally going through puberty.
literally, after this happens, we could just get a scene where like 2 weeks would pass and Izuku would just put all of his points into strength. He's just, because of the fact that he can just see it actively happening. After the 2 weeks would be over, Izuku would pretty much look like a completely different person. Because of the fact that he put that many points into his strength.
Thirsting for him.
Now he has a full-on six-pack. You guys can't see it, but I'm over here lifting my shirt as if I have one. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
We would get a scene where the nurses are just like thirsting for Deku, just like we do in the original. After this would happen, we could get a scene where like someone asks for his number, and just like Sun Jin Woo, he thinks, oh, they just need to give me more stuff, you know?
Oh, he needs my number. She needs my number to see if I have any more test results. Understandable. Yeah.
Just like that.
I like it.
Okay, hear me out. And then after this happens, we would just get a moment where Izuku, finally coming out of the hospital, would just sort of return to school. But when he does, he's taller. He looks like he fills in his outfit so much. Like the outfit looks tight on him because he can't just go and buy another outfit. You know, most of his money goes towards bills and his mom's medical expenses. So with this happening, we would just get Bakugo, you know, kind of like sitting in class thinking, when's Deku finally gonna show up? Is that weakling taking this long to heal up? He would think, well, he did lose a leg, so I guess I gotta be understanding about it. And we would then get a scene where he walks in.
Crazy.
And
I guess
everyone,
he's a cripple. I should give him.
Yeah, everyone just looks at him. And Izuku just looks so different. Like his hair just looks so much cooler. He got a haircut.
Picture like all those awesome like adult Deku fan arts. He looked like that. We'd have teachers asking him if he's like a substitute because you got all these like middle school snots, and then you got this guy.
Dude,
Chad.
that's true.
Yeah.
He's like a substitute. Okay. As he's walking in, it would be, have you guys seen Lookism? I don't know if you guys have seen Lookism, but it would be just like that, where he walks in and like the girls are just like fawning for him. At this moment, Bakugo would be like, Deku? as you know, we would if this was an anime episode, this is where the outro would start playing, you know what I mean? But since it's not, what pretty much ends up taking place after this is we would get Izuku smiling at Kacchan saying, "Hey Kacchan." As from here, Bakugo's like, "The heck happened to you? Did you get an awakening or something like that, nerd?" As from here, Deku would think,
"A second awakening."
Deku would say, "I'm not sure, Kacchan. All I know is that ever since that dungeon, I feel reborn. I feel great." From here, Bakugo would look at him and say, "Huh, you look reborn." As he'd say, "What ended up happening in the dungeon? I need to know."
Reborn? You look like you're a Diddy going into a middle school like that. No, I'm just kidding. You're good. I'm
not even gonna give you the sympathy laugh for that joke.
No sympathy?
Not even the sympathy laugh. That's undeserving.
Bro has
Bad
not
weeb.
watched Sister
Bad
Leveling.
weeb. No, but
Bro has not seen Sister Leveling. This is a crime.
Sister Leveling, dude. Could you
Have you not
imagine
heard
that
of it?
Sun Jin Woo had like a sister complex? He's like,
That's
"It's
the
all
whole
for
joke.
my sister."
No, I was making a joke because you have Gina. We're getting into a tangent.
You're
I'll be fast.
explaining a joke.
There's a YouTube
You're
Shorts
explaining a
called
joke.
Sister Leveling, and everyone has been talking about it. That is what I'm referencing. Okay.
Okay.
Continue.
Fair enough. Anyways, after this would happen, we would pretty much get a scene in which Bakugo's like, "All right, we'll talk about it after school." And then we would just get this scene where like Bakugo inside of himself is just holding back his emotions, thinking like, "I'm happy you're here, but like I need to know everything." As soon as school's finally done, we would get a scene where Deku's just like, he's treating Bakugo like nothing happened. Like he has no grudges, no anything. And right as this happens, we'd pretty much get a scene where Deku and Bakugo are just like the last two left in the class. And as Deku's telling him the story, we would have Bakugo looking down going, "Deku, why are you talking to me like we're friends or something? Do you hold no regards for what I did? I left you to die, damn it. I left you to die." As we would just get Izuku looking at him and he could just see Bakugo's eyes like they look broken. From here, we would just get Izuku looking at him and saying, "Bakugo, I would have done that even if it had cost my life." And you just get like a moment where Bakugo realizes like,
oh my goodness,
this dude has been bullying him and this man would have been willing to give his life for him at any given moment. It would just get a scene where Bakugo goes, "Well,
bro is my hero."
you know,
What?
he would just think, "Deku, you've changed so much." As you know, after this would happen, we would get Izuku pretty much explaining to Bakugo the system, saying that after he woke up, he had this. And Bakugo would go on to understand, "So, you did have an awakening. And apparently this awakening lets you get stronger. Never heard of something like that, but if anyone deserves it, it's you, you damn nerd." As from here, we'd get this scene where Bakugo says, where
Why
Bakugo
is he
just...
such a bro in this timeline? God damn.
Hear me out, bro. Bakugo just like looks at Deku and he's like, "Well, if you ever need any help, Deku, you know where to find me." As we pretty much get this scene where Deku just looks at Bakugo, nods, and the both of them kind of go off in different ways, with Deku thinking that now he could make
This
it
is
into
fantastic.
UA. He's a hunter.
Yeah.
You know, and so for the following, what is it, like 8-9 months, give or take, we would pretty much get Izuku doing daily quests. Like that's all that Izuku's doing, because Izuku's one of those characters that just plays it safe.
No, are we actually doing? Oh
Yes,
no,
we are.
I forgot about this.
We have
He's so busted.
This dude's gonna be insane. Okay. We gotta figure out the math. So, hold on. How many days
I'm pulling out the calculator.
are in 8 months?
Oh no.
Okay,
It's looking at
243.
oh no.
243 times 3. This man has 729
Are you saying he
points.
doesn't get Cossack? He doesn't get the instance dungeon key either yet,
Dude,
because he should have gotten that.
like,
that was from a random loot box.
all I'm saying, dude, is over the course of these next 10 months, like, we have to
10
be generous. Like 8 months, okay? Like 8 months. Okay? This man is doing...
I'm laughing because solo leveling takes place, like the entire manga takes place over 1 year. So we just have, like, if Sung was like terrified of going into gates, He never goes into any gates. He's just like, I'm gonna keep doing the daily quests.
That's all he's doing every day. He's just getting stronger and stronger. Okay, let's say that like closer. Okay, let's say that after like 5 or okay, something more realistic.
Can we do 3 months?
Yeah,
just
3.
Put
Okay,
it 3 months before the exam.
3 months.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
so let's say no.
Let's do 3 months.
No. Okay, so let's assume that. No, dude, it can't because he had 10 months and we chopped 2 months off to be generous. Like the timeline just doesn't work in that way.
We should have put the dungeon incident later. It should have been in the summer. Oh,
it should have.
We're going with it now.
We're already it's too late.
For the sake of the story, let's just say that Antares and the other monarchs don't invade MHA and kill everyone while Izuku's busy doing the daily quest for 10 months.
Every single day. Okay, so
I'm saying he had to have done the instance dungeon. I'm sorry, he had to have fought Kasuka, right? Like,
who's the snake, right?
Yeah, that was given by the system. Like the system gave him that key. So yeah, that's the big blue snake.
How many points did he earn from that? He like leveled up crazy.
He leveled
right?
up to like level 30.
You know, it would be hilarious if Deku
end.
did every single quest every single day and just had all these points. He never fought. He's still level 1.
So he just has the instance dungeon key and never uses it.
Just never uses it.
Okay, let's
go
with that.
He's literally just playing it safe because
that's
like
so funny.
Hear me out. No. The reason this works is that Deku doesn't understand how much stronger he's actually gotten because he still hasn't had the chance to fight a monster. Do you know what I mean?
He's had to be in dungeons to like maintain his hunter license.
No. He had to have gone in dungeons to like make money. So I can't even say he hasn't.
Maybe he's just so terrified, or it is still Deku and he's allergic to exercise or doing anything, you know, to try and improve his situation. So let's say that during the 10 months, he's doing the daily quest. He's still going into like E and D rank dungeons. This time Bakugo would kind of be helping him, or like not helping him as much because he knows he's getting stronger every day. Let's say that he doesn't try to fight stronger monsters.
Oh, you know what we could say? We could say that because Deku looks older, he gets a part-time job. Cause dude, if we let this dude go into dungeons with 729 combat points,
but he still needs to go into dungeons or his mom's like healthcare from the the Hero Hunter Association. Like that's the whole reason Sung had to be a hunter and stay as a hunter.
I had no idea. I thought he was just paying for that.
Maybe what we could do, you know, I have an idea. Maybe what we do is Deku does go into the dungeon and fight Kasuka, and he's level 30. But instead of keeping the dagger, he goes to see how much it's worth, sells it, quits being a hunter, and focuses on getting ready for the UA exam. So he sells Kasuka's Venom Fang to pay for his mom's health bills.
Dude, I freaking love Kasuka's Venom Fang. Okay. We have the freedom to just just make plot holes, dude. We are the writers. We are Kishimoto right now, okay?
The viewers watching us fall into our own plot hole that we created.
Literally, like they're just hearing this in real time as we're trying to save the story.
You know what? It's fine. I kind of like going with the One Punch Man route with this anyway. He's just got 700 points that he can put into whatever.
729. He doesn't go into a dungeon because he gets a part-time job. Okay, that's what we're gonna run with. We're sorry, guys. We literally made a story without thinking about how busted this dude was gonna be.
The timelines of MHA is so much bigger than I thought. I thought it was like over a year.
Yeah,
it's my bad.
Yeah, no, that's our bad. You know what's funny? We talked about this before. We had a conversation and we forgot all about it. Dude, we were on a roll. Okay, 729 points.
Yeah.
Where are all of these points going? I say that we add another 100 to his strength category. So now this dude has 152 in his strength. He's going to be putting another 100
monster
into vitality. He's going to be putting another 100 into agility. He's going to be putting another 100 into intelligence. He's going to be putting another 100 into precision. And he still has 200 points left, which I can easily see him putting another 100 into his strength category. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's going to put 50 into his defense because he doesn't want to be weak. And
he's easily S rank. Like he's probably beyond. He's probably like nation level hunter with that many stat points.
And he is what should we put the last 50 into, agility or intelligence?
I would say agility.
We could also just do
Wow.
25 into agility.
So
And
for
25
reference, I want to talk about the stats here. Jinwoo at level 51, so that you get 1 point for every stat. So that gives him 50 in everything plus the baseline, so 60. Had 11,000 HP, 1,000 mana, 132 strength, 91 vitality, 111 agility, 70 intelligence, and 93 like sensing / precision. So he is stronger than a level at least. So how many points are we putting to strength?
Dog, he has 252 points in strength.
He is as strong as a level 100, as a level 97 Jinwoo, roughly. That is insane. That is okay. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine.
We ruined the story in the first 30 minutes.
See, this is the problem with solo leveling.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay, 135.
well,
I'm literally adding up all the numbers as you're just sitting there.
Okay. Look, I get it. I get that we wrote us into this corner, guys. But let's pretend Sludge incident and the double dungeon incident are months apart. The double dungeon incident happens.
What? You don't want
3
Izuku to have
weeks before the
252
exam.
strength, 160 vitality, 135 agility, 110 intelligence, and 135 perception? What's wrong with you?
I think that might be a little much.
Dude, I mean, bro, it's just 252 strength.
At that level, he is stronger than Beru, I think. Like he just is he's at least like beyond an S rank hunter. Before the story even starts, like nothing interesting happens. He just grinds for 10 months and the monarchs don't attack for some reason.
Bro, but hear me out. He did the
you know.
One Punch Man training and got the One Punch Man results.
Oh my god. Okay. Well, we gotta explain what's going on with the gates then. I'm gonna say because there's so many hunters in MHA and the world is like better at containing gates, there's less dungeon breaks. So maybe because there's less dungeon breaks, the mana in the world isn't as permeated. So we don't have the monarchs and rulers being able to attack as early. We'll go with that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This is now this story has turned into a comedy what if so quickly. Okay. So after this happens, Izuku is now busted, but because he doesn't have
the job. He's not. Oh my god, he doesn't have the job change quest because he's not leveled. He's just level 1 with insane
I'm telling you,
stats.
he's level 1.
He's gonna one-shot Igris. Oh
no. Bro,
Okay,
it's like playing a game and you do every
going.
quest. You just do every quest before you get to the boss. You're just so over leveled. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So
you go.
Here's what happens. After the end of the 10 months, Izuku's looking at his stats and he realizes, he's like, guess it's a good thing I was able to go past 100. I thought that'd be the cap. Well, time to put it to the test. We'd get a scene where Izuku just kind of grabs his things and just says, I can finally... no, he has to keep his part-time job. He's like, well, my job starts in 4 hours, so as long as I can finish the entrance exam, I should be good. We'd get a scene where Deku pretty much makes his way towards the school, and the second he arrives there and takes the test, because his intelligence is, pretty high and he's already a pretty smart guy, he gets incredible scores for the little test. And then after this happens, we'd get Izuku making his way towards the outside portion.
Little bro to the test. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
He goes outside, and as he's outside, he's just waiting. He's nervous, bro. Like, you remember how nervous Jin was before entering his first dungeon? He's literally freaking out, and he's thinking to himself, could I really beat these robots? And the second that President Mike says, go, 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 Izuku's just the only one standing there thinking, how can I compete with them? As he's looking at everybody else around him who was like, they look so cool in his eyes, you know what I mean? But Izuku just says, no, I'm strong too now. As he would like lunge and he breaks the ground. As Izuku is just like, what? He rushes at one of the robots and punches it so hard it goes crashing through 7 buildings. As Izuku looks at his hand and realizes, he's like, I can't do this. He then rushes at every single one of these robots and proceeds to have a blast, like Could you guys just imagine realizing you're this strong and you can beat up on other opponents that are not living? He proceeds to demolish everything. And Izuku,
the test just gets ruined because he's easily faster than sound.
Yep.
So he just is like
he
one of the
obliterates
fastest
every robot. Everyone else doesn't get a chance to beat any more robots than the one that they had already destroyed. And after this happens, I could just get a scene where all the teachers are in the examination room and they're like, what? You know what I mean? Like all of their jaws hit the floor. All Might is just sitting there just going, this kid, you know?
Yeah.
And
I think, we have to add this as a part of the exam too.
What?
They should have a reevaluation of their magic power as part of the exam.
We could do that. Like, you could cover that.
Yeah. Yeah. So if
Wait,
they're
what about the 0 pointers?
This,
0 pointers. Yeah, let me finish.
That'll
0 pointers.
that'll happen out. Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay, so hear me out. After Izuku destroyed everything, we will just get a scene where Nezu goes, well, let's see what he can do against this one. As he hits the button and the 0 pointer arrives and it's standing in front of Izuku. Izuku, even though he just finished destroying everything, he'd be scared because he's never seen something this big.
Oh, he has. He just saw one 10 months ago.
Oh, yeah, the freaking centipede. He'd be terrified.
The stone statue that almost killed them all.
Yeah. Dude, he could get PTSD from that. He's like, if this thing
That's what I'm saying.
Even half as strong, then I have no hope. So then we get this scene where the thing's getting closer and closer and he's just terrified. Like he's scared, bro. But suddenly he like just squeezes his fist and he's like, fight it. As he lunges at the 0 pointer and just destroys it. He just like obliterates the 0 pointer, landing on the ground as everybody around him is looking at him and they're like, who is this guy? And then we just get
giving him experience for the robots?
Nah.
Is he leveling up? Nah,
because that's not dungeon people, you know? So he doesn't level up.
Yeah. Okay.
Dude, does that mean that he's still in E rank because he hasn't leveled up, but his stats are high?
His magic power is still high from his stats.
Okay, so, fair enough.
Yeah, so the level ups and the stats both accomplish the same thing. So even though he's
level
1,
wait,
he
if
has
his magic does his magic power go up with levels or does it go up with stats?
With both. It's
okay.
Both. You put
that means
stats into your magic power.
He's this busted, but he's not able to like use all of it literally because his magic power is so low.
It's still high. His magic power, even at 100, that gives him like hold on. I think I just had it pulled up. I think he has like 6,000 magic power, so he'd still be classified as S rank, like because he equivalates to roughly a level 100 Jinwoo at this point in terms of stats. So
all right, take over the reassessment section.
I got you. So after that exam, everyone would be really like put out, having seen their test get ruined, all of that, the buildings and the huge robots having been destroyed. It would be time for the reevaluation, basically to see if any of these kids have awakened during their time, either before the exam or since childhood, since they typically have, like, see if people awaken either by like scanning them at a testing site or during their quirk evaluations as kids. So some people would actually have awakened in the time since that time. Izuku would be getting reevaluated, with his stats being immeasurable. At this point, this would only have confirmed All Might and everyone else's suspicions, with Izuku being the 10th ever S-rank hunter in Japan, with him being one of the rarest types of hunters, surpassing the hunter system, and making him basically one of the most powerful individuals automatically, since S-rank hunters are so rare. So even on like the top 10 heroes list, like most S-rank hunters who decide to be hunters and heroes are on the top 10 list. So basically, if you're an S-rank hunter and you want to be a pro hero outside of being a hunter, you could be in the top 10 if you wanted to do that. Such as All Might, who is the #1 hero as an A-rank healer. Now, with that, we would have the association taking an interest especially into Izuku, especially after that double dungeon incident, with them wondering if that was when his reawakening had happened, right? From here, they would allow Izuku an entrance into UA, and now that Izuku has proof that he's strong, we've been kidding. Like, I was laughing because it was funny that he just had all the dungeon keys and he hasn't been using them. So at this point, I think he's finally gonna use the instant dungeon.
No, he
key
has to go to his job, dude. This dude has to clock in.
He has to clock in.
He has to clock. He's gonna get fired.
All right, guys, let's go to McDonald's. Okay, we've got Izuku in his buff soul leveling Riz form, walking up. He plugs in the fryer. He clocks in with his work me account. He
His
says hi to his
manager
boss.
walks in. It's a female.
His manager walks up.
It's a girl.
She's like, yeah. See,
What
bros,
happens?
this is getting
What
too
happens,
fanfiction.
Weeb?
Okay. Does anyone care? Do we
Yeah,
care
everyone-
about
everyone- they
my
all
Friar
care.
Academia?
Yep, my Friar Academia.
If you made it this far and you haven't clicked off yet from this ridiculousness, fair enough. And you like my Friar Academia, we'll continue, okay? Izuku would greet his boss. He'd be like, "Oh, Tencho, how's it going?" And she'd blush, you know, of course, because this guy, he's got soul leveling aura now. She's like, "Ah, it's Izuku." Everyone would love him, of course. He'd be a drive-through G. Everyone would ask, "Hey, is Izuku here?" Wondering if he's going to be the one at the window. Essentially wanting the S-tier experience, right? With Izuku being announced as the 10th S-rank hunter of Japan, we would have a huge uproar going on inside the McDonald's, with everyone congratulating him.
This McDonald's was already the most popular McDonald's in the nation because of Izuku alone. You have any idea how many girls were constantly trying to go to McDonald's just to catch a glimpse of him and like make small talk? They're like pushing in line. They're like, "I want to talk to him. No, I want to talk to him." You know what I mean? Like that's literally what's happening.
That's great.
And now,
well, anyway,
as the girls are in line,
yeah.
hear me out. As they're in line, they get notifications. And they're like, "He's an S-rank hunter." The whole building just shakes. They have to shut it down.
I think we have the boss having to let Izuku go, saying they unfortunately can't have an S-rank hunter working for them as it brings danger towards them, since some of their members could suffer from the eternal sleep disease from the mana poisoning, and they aren't willing to risk that as a health workplace violation. So unfortunately, Izuku is going to get let go from his job. But it's okay, because now he's an S-rank hunter. He can go into any higher rank gates and make like millions of dollars or yen in one strike squad. So really, he's not going to be too far off, but he's going to miss it. You know, he's going to miss his benefits.
Dude, what does
401k.
Bakugo do? What does Bakugo do? He literally just got the notification.
I think Bakugo, having known that Izuku's getting stronger this whole time, he'd kind of be like, he's going to keep getting stronger. He'll become one of those nation-level hunter guys, like that Stars and Stripes chick.
Oh, you want to make her national art? We'll do it. We might as well.
Yeah. So, anyway, Izuku would become officially an S-rank hunter. He clocks out of his job. He gets let go. They all loved him. He gets like a nice little card, right? He gets a little gift card. Anyway, it's time to get to business, because now that he doesn't have his part-time job, he's going to have to pay more money, and he needs to get it quick. So he's going to take this instance dungeon key that he's held on to for 10 months, with the system begging 8 months, with the system practically begging him to use it at this point.
He wakes up to the notification every day and just says, no. Kind of like the update your phone.
Yeah. The system is, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, okay guys, like we've been kind of comedic with it, but because of knowing like the truth of how the system works, it probably would have said, you must go into a dungeon and fight monsters or your heart will stop. Like we will off you if you don't try and get stronger. But it's fine. Let's assume that the architect is very patient this time, okay?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Yeah. Anyway, so he'd enter the instance dungeon. S-rank Izuku is fodderizing everything inside the dungeon. The lichens would have white names. The metal fanged lichens are gone in an instant. He could use his bare hands and just rip them in half. He'd be leveling up because he hasn't had any level ups up to this point. So he'd instantly basically clear the entire dungeon, killing everything inside of it, getting the Wolf Slayer title, finally unlocking the shop, which he didn't have access to this entire time. So he can sell monster parts for gold.
What happens when he looks at the gigantic snake monster? What color is it?
Down to the basement. It would be white, Xehther, because it's a C rank dungeon boss. So he'd be like, is this really what I've been scared of this whole time? And with that, we would get Izuku pummeling Kasuga, basically picking it up. Like, you know that story of baby Hercules where he strangles the snake? As he just spins around in the train station. This is abuse. We should call PETA on Izuku type of stuff, okay? Like, Kasuga is abused. It is not an honorable day. It's not cool. We don't get that cool scene where Izuku's hair goes up and his eyes turn purple and he's like, I've been leveling up this whole time.
I won't die!
Yeah, we don't get that. Instead, we get, I've been doing the daily quest this whole time. And then
he's dumbfounded. He's dumbfounded. He's like, I could have got so much stronger.
I could have been stronger months ago. He kills Kasuga and gets Kasuga's Venom Fang.
Now he's level like 15.
He's like level. Well, his levels would be the same, so he'd still get as much experience. The experience, because he hasn't killed anything, so the amount of XP he needs for each level is the same. So now he's level 34. So everything gets +1. So he's at like 300 strength now.
Okay. Everything got +1, so that means that his strength went to like 280, and he got dude. At this point, it's like, hold on, here. Let me write it down. So he'd be like at 300 strength.
Guys, I'm sorry. I'm
200
so sorry.
vitality. 200.
I've been laughing. Half this video is 200 vitality. You're saying
235 agility. Let's go with like 210 intelligence and like 140 perception.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, yeah. So, I think Izuku would, after getting Kasuga's Venom Fang, he'd like the dagger. He'd be like, oh, finally a weapon I can use. That's cool. It's got poisonous effects. He'd get Kasuga's Venom, which increases your physical resistance with some down debuffs. He would look back at his inventory, seeing the blessed loot box that he had claimed after discovering that if you do more work into the daily quest, then you can get an extra special item, but it only worked one time, and he never opened it, just like the other instance dungeon key. Well, now that I cleared the C rank one, let's see what this blessed loot box has. As he finally opens that quest item, with him claiming the box, and the blessed box giving him the demon's castle key, which is an A rank dungeon. Izuku would be a little scared with him realizing, well, I might be an S rank hunter, but I've never been in an A rank dungeon before. I think this is when school starts. We should get back to UA.
This is 100% when school starts. Let me take over.
Yeah.
You're taking over all the actual solo leveling stuff, and I'm just doing like all the school stuff. You know what I mean? Now I get to have a blast. Okay. So after all this would be said and done, Izuku would finally get his acceptance letter from UA. All Might is like thanking him and saying he's like the greatest and that they're expecting like big things from him. And then, we just get a scene where Deku makes his way towards the school, and as he's walking in, there's like a bunch of girls who are like looking at him, and they're like, who is he? He's so hot. He must be a third year. He makes his way towards class 1A.
S rank hunter.
He makes his way towards his class, and when he walks in, the UA girls are fawning over this man. Bakugo's sitting there on top of his desk arguing with Ida. Ida's like, get your feet off the table. This is UA property. Da, 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 da. And then Deku walks in and says, hey, Kachan. Immediately, everyone looks at Bakugo, and they're like, you know the S rank hunter? And then Bakugo just looks at everyone, and he's like, shut up. Right as this happens, we get Aizawa waking up, and he's like, all right, shut up. Put these on and meet me outside. And we're gonna have a talk. After this happens, we get Izuku chatting with Aizawa, as Aizawa would go on to pretty much say, look, I know you're an S rank hunter and you're probably strong enough to take on All Might. Big deal. But here, you're a student at UA and you're gonna have to listen to everything I say. So if you want to get your hero's license, then I suggest you calm everyone down. Izuku's sweating. He's like, yes, sir. But how am I supposed to calm them? As Aizawa just says, I don't care. And
Dude,
then
I got a scene. Hear me out. We see Aizawa like trying to threaten him. We could see him using his quirk erasure. And when he looks at Deku and tries to erase it, he just sees a like pitch darkness just emanating from him. Like how Mrs. Seller looks into his Jinu.
Oh,
we just have Aizawa like shocked, like he is darkness. Like what the hell is that? So that'd be pretty sick.
That
Just
would be
saying.
lovely.
Continue.
After this happens, we jump cut to Izuku putting his UA outfit on, and when he puts it on, he's literally tearing through it, like almost. Like his muscles are too big for it. This would lead to because his previous size had been submitted and now he doesn't fit it. You know what I mean? It's not that he's just so buff that clothes doesn't fit him, but like his previous clothes doesn't fit him, you know? So because this is the case, Izuku's just sitting there looking like MASH. He looks like he's wearing a compression outfit. This dude looks like Ida. You know, like I'm gonna say it. Ida is freaking.
He's got the
ripped.
12-inch girth through the.
Yeah, the dude has like a 12 pack, and you can see it through his freaking outfit. It's insane. But
Yeah,
anyways,
that's what I said.
after this happens, we get a scene where Izuku has a ball tossed to him, and he's like, "You broke through every record in the school. What was your previous ball throw in middle school?" And he proceeds to tell him the most like pathetic score ever.
5 meters. I had a really weak arm.
You know, and everyone's like, 5 meters? From here, he
Yeah.
just makes his way into the circle, and he's like, well, he said give it your all, so I'm gonna do just that. He throws it far. He gets like 700 and something meters again. Nothing
It would
but
be who? Bakugo or Deku?
no, Deku. Well, what do you think?
Oh, it's gonna be more than 700 meters.
What would it be?
Okay, he has 300 strength, level like 34. His ball throw would probably like at least hit the ozone layer. I'm not gonna lie, like he is faster than the speed of sound. His throw, if he puts magic power into his arm and throws it, it's gone. We're gonna have like the star, like you know, like the Team Rocket blasting off again effect. It's gonna have an infinity number. He's going to have achieved Uraraka's score and tied with her without a gravity quirk.
Dude, that ball's gonna burn up and have question marks, just like in your MASH what if. Oh, by the way, if you guys have seen Mashal, you have got to go watch What If MASH Took Deku's Job on Weep. I don't think I've ever been so giddy at a What If before. That thing was amazing. But anyways, I digress.
Thank you. It is really funny.
Jumping back into the story, we get the events of the quirk apprehension test, and Deku blows everything out of the water. This man proceeds to One Punch Man the test, and it's not even funny. Every single thing that he touched turned to gold. And at the end of everything, like all the girls that are kind of more on that like promiscuous side, that like I can see Mina throwing herself all over Izuku and just like trying to get a date. And Izuku's just like flustered, his face turns red. He's like, I've never been so close to a girl before. You know,
You can raid my dungeon, Izuku.
Izuku is just like grabbed by Bakugo by the collar and says, come on, let's go. And they make their way home. After this happens,
the clingy girlfriend. That's crazy.
nah, he's like the fat friend. He's like the fridge keeper. But anyways, after this happens, Bakugo and Izuku, they're like meeting up at Dagoma Beach, right? They're both there, and Bakugo just says, hey, Deku.
Wait, how do you know the name offhand? Why do you just know? Okay, no,
dude, I've been covering this What If for years, okay?
Okay, it's fine.
Okay,
Just
they show up at
Beach
Dagoma
with
Beach,
Kanchan.
and Bakugo just says, Deku, I've been itching to find out how strong you are. What you say we have a little friendly match? As he cracks his neck and knuckles and pops explosions off of his hands. From here, we'd get Izuku turning towards Bakugo and saying, sure, I don't see why, as an explosion just instantly gets shot at Deku's face, and he bends backwards with his agility showing through, and like he dodges it.
Ooh.
Yeah, just like Saitama
clean.
would have
That's
to
clean. I
Genos.
like it.
You remember that scene? He like
Yes,
blasts
sir.
off,
Yes,
and
sir.
yeah, just like that. We would pretty much get the equivalent to that happening in My Hero Academia. Bakugo's pulling out all the stops. He's using his enhancement magic C rank or whatever, and he can't even touch Deku. It'd be at this point that Deku appears behind Bakugo with a little bit of killer intent, and Bakugo can just feel like his life flash before his eyes as Deku just
I'm cooked.
He taps him on the back of the head just like Saitama, and Bakugo's just like, how strong did you get? As a smirk would pop up on his face, and we would just
I've been doing the daily quest every day.
Yep. Every day. And, you know, right after this happens, we pretty much just get Bakugo and Deku having like a monologue scene. As, you know, not to take too much time, we finally get back into school where now they're going to be having the heroes versus villains. And Weeb, do you want to take over right here?
Oh, okay. I guess I can have Deku killing Shigaraki. It's cool.
No. Heroes versus villains.
Cool, it's
like
yeah. You know,
school.
I gotcha. The school event. Sorry, guys. Anyone who knows knows I don't cover a lot of MHA, but I've done a couple. I got it. So Bakugo would be praying not to be against Izuku, and unfortunately for him, he is. With Izuku Ochako being the same team, and we have Bakugo and Ida. Ida would be saying that he has a speed quirk, so he'll definitely be able to keep up with him, even though his 100-meter time blew his out of the water. Bakugo would be face palming, saying, "We're cooked." With Izuku walking into the building, he would ask Ochako if she wants to take this test. With her confused, Izuku would say that he could clear this instantly, saying with his sense he can already tell where the two are based purely off of Bakugo's magic power, saying that if they want to, they can finish this instantly. Bakugo would begin descending the tower, with him looking to Ochako saying, "Here, use your quirk." As she'd use her quirk on both of them, Izuku would carry her princess style, with her blushing as he jumps off the ground, shattering it as they rise up to the top of the building. He'd say, "Watch your eyes," as he pulls his hand back and destroys the entire wall of the building, now entering into the bomb room. As Ida would turn around, seeing as Izuku and Ochako had skipped the entire building, with Bakugo getting to the ground floor and saying, "Hey, where the hell are you?" At this point, we get Ida trying his best to keep the bomb away from Deku, but there's no point. Izuku might even flex on him with his aura farming, using the dash skill, which is now level 3 at least, after having used it for so many months, trying to complete the daily quest. We have Izuku's speed just completely blitzing Ida as he touches the bomb and says, "Game over. I win." And the test would have ended in 30 seconds. And Izuku, the only reason it took that long was because he was discussing it with Uraraka. Bakugo would be disappointed. All Might would be impressed, wondering if maybe this guy's gonna be the one I give one for all to.
Yeah, if there was ever a successor, you want to give one for all to freaking Sun Jin Woo's reincarnation? That's insane. All right, no. After that happens, we'd pretty much get a scene where like all the girls run up to Uraraka and they're like, "How was it being so close to him?" And you know, she's just blushing. She's like, "Hey, stop it!"
He smelled nice.
Yeah, she's like floating in the air. She's like, "Stop!" You know what I mean? We have all the guys saying,
"He smelled nice."
Kirishima goes up to Izuku and he's like, "You're so manly." And you know, we just get Shoto looking at Deku, just thinking, "Is he stronger than me?" Like it's not even like it's a question. You know what I mean? After this, we pretty much get All Might like saying, "Hey, I'd like to have a private chat with you after class if you don't mind." And then we get a moment where All Might just puts the question towards Izuku. Like it almost feels like he's trying to confess his love to somebody that he knows is gonna say no. You know what I mean? As Izuku just like is hearing everything.
I have something to tell you, young man. Meet me behind the gymnasium after school.
I have a surprise for you.
All Might doing the finger poke. Pink poke.
For real, bro. Deku makes his way to the back of the school, and as soon as he gets there, like he can see Deku walking in with all that aura, and the second he's finally alone, he's like, "Oh my, I can't believe I'm finally meeting you. You've been my #1 hero since I was a kid." Like he just starts freaking out. All of his aura just goes negative, and All Might's like, "Say what now?" You know what I mean? As Izuku just fangirling over All Might like crazy.
I take it back.
I take it back? What? Okay.
I just wanted to say you did a good job in that exam.
No,
This
for
kid's
real.
a freak. I can't give him one for all. He's crazy.
No, after this happens, we get All Might explaining everything, and Izuku hearing of one for all, or all for one. He's like, "So someone that strong really exists?" At this point, we'd get All
Let me
Might
fight him.
going on to explain that, you know, he does, and Izuku just nods. He's like, "Well, if you're offering me one for all Might, I just can't take it. I don't think I'm worthy. I don't think I'm worthy of it, All Might. Plus, from what I can tell, you're still plenty strong enough to keep being a hero." As All Might would look at Izuku and he's like, "You really don't want to take it?" And Izuku says,
Yeah.
"Well, All Might, if you would have asked me this months ago, I probably would have jumped at the opportunity, but now I have a power that's of my own, and I want to see just how strong I can get with it." All Might hearing this would like nod his head and be like, "I understand, young man. Well, if you ever want the quirk, it's always going to be right here." As from here, Izuku nods, thanking All Might as he walks out of the room, and like the dude is just like sniffing his hand that he shook All Might's hand with, and he's like, "Oh my!"
That is oh no!
I thought of that. I thought of that last minute. I just had to
He's
include
a total
it.
freak. Oh no!
Yeah.
We got. Okay, you know what?
That's
I kind of
valid.
like this. I
Right?
think that's kind of valid. Okay, I'm
This
cool
is
with
like
this.
the MASH what if, but solo leveling style.
Oh god, okay. It's fun. It's so much funnier because and Mash's personality, he knows he's busted. He's like, yeah, I'll just punch it. Izuku is like his lack of self-confidence with Jinu's aura and the look is so funny. Okay, we gotta get serious though, okay? Your exam's
USJ.
over. USJ. Now it's time to kill Shigaraki. Okay. But hear me out. Okay? As time has passed, it's been around another month. The system is starting to get impatient. At the USJ, Izuku would easily be able to take out all of these villains, wondering why, like, what's happening and why they're attacking the USJ specifically. What could be happening here? Not knowing that they're after All Might. As Izuku is about to step in to fight the Nomu, a system notification would pop up. Targets have been cleared. Izuku, having had to fight some of the villains, would have successfully been fighting and even killed the Nomu. However, when he killed the Nomu, this would activate his system, calling him to complete the job change quest immediately. Basically saying if he does not accept the job change quest at this moment, since he's been blowing off all of the other gifts
Wait, so
from the
did
system,
he kill the Nomu or was he like
Oh,
about
it's dead.
to? No. I think it'd be funnier if he was like about to kill the Nomu.
He's about to off
Yeah,
it.
and like
and then he just gets teleported by the system. Okay, so let's go with that. Nomu is about to get offed by Izuku with Kasuga's Venom Fang. He's been like stabbing at it. It's been poisoned, so it's a little weakened. And as he's about to finish it off, the system alerts him to the immediate quest that he has to take. And he disappears, with Bakugo remembering this from last time at the hospital. Izuku would open his eyes, realizing that he's inside some sort of medieval castle. And as he's walking around, he'd begin fighting these monsters that look like knights, these armored opponents. As he crushes them, he would unlock items from them, including the gauntlets, and would even gain levels from them, with him finally reaching the guaranteed level he needed for the original job change quest. After killing all these B rank and C rank monsters, he'd take out the armored ones, he'd take out the assassin types, he'd take out mages, and with that, he would finally reach the throne room.
Dude,
with him
Izuku
having
would
unlocked all
finally
this
get
new
the
gear.
stealth skill. And the first time he saw
Yes.
it, he'd be like stunned. But I can see like the monster hitting him and Izuku just being like, that didn't really
Well,
hurt.
his perception is so high.
yeah, I forgot
he can
about that.
see people with the stealth skill. Yeah. So all of these monsters aren't really a threat to him, but they're still worth more experience than his body is used to receiving because he doesn't level up very much. So he basically just jumped up several he jumped up I think 20 levels because the system we're gonna get into it, but the system needs him to get stronger fast and needs to imprint Ashbor on him. Okay? So, the job change quest. As he gets into the final room, he would finally feel shivers. This was the first time that his sense skill that he had gained, the ability to sense the strength of others, had given him the aura of such a person. Even All Might, with his golden glow around him, was not nearly as impressive as this creature, this red-haired armored man. Blood Red Commander Igris. His name, instead of being Blood Red like it was for Jinu, would be Orange, with Igris in his living form being around an S rank. This would be almost an evenly matched fight.
Nah. Did you forget Izuku's stats?
Look,
300 attack.
I understand.
200 vitality. In fact, he's had
But-
more because he's able to put all those stats
But-
into it.
Igris let Jinu kill him in the original fight. That was not like the full power of Igris. Igris, for one, did not use his sword. He went to hands when Jinu held his hands up, and he's a swordsman. And B, he was not trying to kill Jinu. He was assessing him. We can see that during the side stories after, like at the after stories, where we have the narrated version of Igris's fight with him comparing Igris comparing Jinu to Ashbourne. So this time he has no reason to hold back, with him recognizing that the strength of this chosen monarch is comparable to that of himself. So we would get a full out like bloodthirsted Igris essentially.
I'll let you have it.
Yes! All right. Now we can narrate a cool fight. All right. Igris gets off of his throne. Like, he's not sitting on the throne. He would stand before the empty throne, with Izuku wondering who this person is, this monster, as the sword in his hand would fly to it. This is when Igris would rush forward at intense speeds, his name now pushing up into Izuku's face as Izuku would dodge it, his sense and strength stats being higher than Igris, so he's able to outspeed him. At this point, Igris would then use his ability, the rune stone that he possesses, that being Ruler's Hand, as he then throws the sword at Izuku, using Ruler's Hand to spin it like a razor's edge, as it would fly towards him. Izuku would clasp his hands together, grabbing the sword out of the air, as sparks would fly from the gauntlets that he had equipped. At this point, Izuku would grab the sword, thrusting it into a pillar, as he turns and throws a punch at Igris, using Kasuka's Venom Fang in his other hand and slashing at his armor. With his strength, he would dent Igris' armor, with the monster roaring in rage. Izuku would grab Igris by his red mantle, grabbing the hair from the top of his head and spinning him into a column as Igris would go flying. He would get back up, now cracking his neck, the metallic noise from it causing Izuku to feel a shiver as he runs forward, using Ruler's Hand on Izuku and throwing him into the air, smashing him into the ground and into the ceiling twice. Izuku would get pissed off as he gets thrown to the ceiling using the dash skill as he uses his knees and powers them up with magic power, pushing off of the ceiling and slamming down onto Igris, causing the metal to crunch as he gets on top of Igris and straddles him, pulling his fist back as he punches him in the face over and over again. Igris would call out using his Ruler's Hand as the sword that had been embedded into the pillar would begin moving. Izuku would keep punching though, as his fist finally begins to cause blood to spurt out of Igris' eyes, him taking Kasuka's Venom Fang just in time as he jams it into Igris' face and twists. At that last moment, the sword that was about to jab into Izuku's back would fall to the ground from the Ruler's Hand being deactivated. Izuku would gain 5 levels, with him having successfully defeated the Blood Red Commander. Your turn.
Nah, keep going.
Nah?
Yeah,
Okay.
keep going.
That was heat though, right? Like,
Yeah, that was fire. I ain't gonna lie.
that's what I'm saying. All right, anyway. Igris is dead. He would claim the helmet being his first ever S-rank piece of gear, which would increase his stats again. With Izuku now with all this armor equipped and the stat increase from killing Igris, now easily being nation level. I'm not gonna lie. He is at least in the 300 to 400 stat range, okay? Because he gets 50 points in strength and vitality just from having the helmet. Anyway, this is when the true test would begin, when all the monsters would be summoned from the gates, as we have the more of these like unending waves, right? Mm-hmm. Izuku would foderize them though, not having to rely on not completing the daily quest, since this time he had actually completed it already, so he couldn't escape if he wanted to anyway. But he has a time limit, right? So since he's still in this job change quest, he's been trying to complete it as fast as possible to get back to the USJ. Which, by the way, we'll have a little flashback to. After Izuku had vanished, it's been around 20 minutes, with the villains now slowly overpowering the heroes. Shigaraki, even with this weakened Nomu, being fought by Aizawa and Bakugo, using both magic and the abilities of quirks. All Might would arrive, with him now fighting the Nomu, who had been weakened by Kasuka's Venom Fang. We'd have Kurogiri once again pulling off that maneuver where they try and use like that slam attack to get All Might chopped in half with a portal. However, All Might would be stronger using his All Might would be stronger than the original timeline, using his healing abilities as he is out healing the portal, trying to cut him in half, basically fighting the portal ability. We get back to Izuku, who's currently fighting the job change quest, and would begin to realize that these monsters aren't stopping. As the time progresses, he needs more points, right? Because the more monsters he kills, the more points he gets, which unlocks the job change, allowing him the secret ability to unlock. He keeps fighting, he slaughters lots of them, and realizes his time is running out. He needs to get back to the USJ. It's been almost an hour. So, he slaughters all of the mages, taking them out easily, and with everything concerned with the quest, he would be given the offer of the Necromancer job class, which Izuku would be a little freaked out by. A necromancer? I can't control the dead. And in reality, just Izuku's personality type, assuming he hasn't been changed by the system, he'd probably die, because if he did not accept the job change, the system would kill him, since he's not being a good vessel. So, assuming he accepts the job
Izuku
change,
is the worst vessel ever. Could you just imagine how upset the guy who made the architect would be? He's like,
yeah,
he's been doing
this
the
guy
daily
stinks
quest for 8 months.
he'd be so pissed off.
So mad.
I can't wait. Yeah, he'd be mad. I'm not gonna lie. He'd be like, why is the Shadow Monarch like watching this? Why isn't he saying anything? What are the other monarchs doing? Meanwhile, in the realm between dimensions, Go Fish, Entourage is just playing cards. I don't know.
They're literally just
Anyway.
playing. They're just horsing around. Can I take back over
like,
now?
Yeah, you lock in. You got
I'm not gonna lie,
we just
dude.
finished job change.
While you were covering all that, I was just kind of sitting here playing a Clash Royale match.
I appreciate that. Honestly,
Yeah,
it's cool.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
anyways, dog, that
yeah,
fight
it's all
was
good.
crispy.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank
But
you.
okay, after
Yeah, that's what
Izuku
I'm
has the
saying.
job change, he would say, "Erect," as Igris would join his army, and every single other thing that he
Wakey.
slaughtered would join his what's it called? His
Shadow Army.
Yeah, his shadow army. Yeah. So after that
Yeah.
pretty much takes place, we would essentially
Shadow
jump
Monarch.
cut to Izuku arriving back in the real world in his room. Izuku in this moment
In
would-
his room?
Wait,
what happened to the USJ?
Would he go back to
What
the
happened to the
USJ?
USJ?
Would he?
Yes.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yes.
Okay, so he'd appear in the USJ, and he can just see a bunch of ambulances and a whole bunch of like explosions everywhere. He would think, so it must have been Bakugo who took that thing out. And then we'd get like he sees like golden hair on the ground a little bit. He's like, oh, All Might was here as well. He would look around, realize that the monsters were or the villains were taken care of. As right after this would happen, Izuku would go to find out how his classmates are doing, and he would realize that everything actually turned out fine. You know, things pretty much played out just like they would have in the original, and All Might this time around didn't even need the help of the other teachers. Unfortunately though, Shigaraki, yeah, he got away. But after this would take place, the school would have to shut down for about a week, give or say, just for them to let the situation die down with the media. And after this would take place, we would finally get the UA Sports Festival. What happens here? I need to think about it. Okay, because obviously the first event remains the same in terms of the race. You know, one
results.
interesting thing that would happen here is the speech. Because
What's
instead of Bakugo being like, I'm gonna win, we pretty much get a scene where Deku just hypes everyone up. Like he's doing his absolute best to tell everybody to give it their best. And then the second that the race event starts and Izuku's like able to suit up for it, he would like look straight at the finish line, dash, and just clear the whole thing. Everyone would wonder if he like teleported, but no. The dude genuinely ran through everything, and it happened to him in slow motion. But everyone just saw him vanish and appear. Mind you, he took down robots. Like 3 robots would fall down onto the ground after Izuku would arrive at the finish line. And as everybody was staring at the robots, like the effects of his blows still hadn't registered. So suddenly they just fall and topple over, and a bunch of explosions go off as everyone's like, he really cleared the course? President Mike would be like, incredible! Never before in UA history have we seen somebody perform like this.
I'm laughing a lot on this one. I'm sorry, guys, but it's so funny. I'm sorry.
Aizawa, what do you think? He's impressive. Are you guys hearing this? Aizawa thinks he's impressive.
That's an S-rank hunter for you.
Yeah, after this, we pretty much just get everybody being like, well, clearly he's going to win the whole thing. And, you know, they're absolutely right. Then we get the cavalry battle. Deku, Bakugo, Mei Hatsume.
Wait.
What?
Oh, I just had a good idea.
Dude,
Keep
he
going,
could use
though.
his
Keep
freaking
going.
but he could use his shadows. What
Yeah,
about
I was talking about the shadows. Like, what if he has his own team?
Duh.
He's like, no thanks, I don't need a team, and just summons Igris as his like front runner, and 4 of the other like knights summons.
Yeah, he can only summon 3 because it has to only be 4. So
Oh,
yeah,
3? Okay,
he
okay,
would
I
summon
got
3 of them. He summons Igris, he summons another one, and he would also have Bakugo join his team just because I don't want to eliminate Bakugo. After this would happen, we can get a scene where Deku eliminates everyone. Everyone gets eliminated. every single one of them. And Bakugo's just kind of sitting there just thinking,
could he summon all of his summons and have them attack the other teams as a part of his abilities?
Oh, he could, because that is his power.
Yeah.
So a bunch of shadow like things would pop up, and the heroes are like, a villain attack. But Izuku just says, wait, that's my quirk. And like as this happens, like they just eliminate everyone. Like the stream of the festival just cuts. It's like beep. And Shigaraki and All For One who are watching this are just thinking to themselves, who the heck is this kid? As this is happening, like they have to stop the whole event, and they're like, all right, well, he clearly passes. What?
Alternatively, we have All For One, and we have All For One saying, so it's the shadow.
Don't cover your mouth.
What?
No, because it sounds weird in my headphones.
Okay. Well, you could have him recognize the Shadow Monarch.
One more time. Cool. No, wait. But he's not a monarch. Remember, we weren't throwing monarchs into the series, were we?
Well, I talked about it, but we haven't gone that far anyway.
We might as well throw monarchs in there now, just so that we could actually get some interesting fights, just for you. I'll let you have your shine.
I think the fans enjoy. I don't know. You guys can comment this. Do you guys like videos where the main protagonist wins everything easily? Or do you like when there's like hard fought victories? I kind of like it when the protagonist, even if they're overpowered, has to struggle a little bit, you know? Because otherwise it's like, what's the point? Why doesn't he just take over the entire world, you know? Why doesn't he why is this guy a good guy, huh?
After the UA Sports Festival would finally be over and Izuku's awarded his medal, they pretty much end up like giving him first place automatically without giving him first place. They have to take him out of it because he's just too busted. Everyone's cheering his name. They're like, why would you let an S-rank hunter participate in the first place? You know what I mean? Yeah. And we would just get Izuku, who would actually be right next to President Mike. Now he's taking part in announcing the battles. And like, you know, he's doing his best. He's like, Kacchan's attacking Kirishima. Oh, it's an incredible fight.
Maybe he puts in one of his summons as a representative for himself. So he puts Igris in against Todoroki. That's his representative for the fight.
Nah, that's absolutely insane. You want Todoroki to get massacred? That's not cool.
No, it's fine. I'm just kidding. This is a really funny video. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
After this happens,
for Deku.
Hero Killer arc. What happens,
Okay. First off, Deku can erect Ida's brother if he wants to. That'd be kind of interesting.
Like, but he wasn't there. He'd have to go there. So I don't think he could.
Well, he could resurrect. He could do it if Ida let him know about it.
But he won't, remember?
Well, yeah.
He could freaking resurrect Stain.
Well, he could, but Stain didn't die, I don't think.
Yeah, but what if he has bloodlust for Deku?
Oh, you think the system's gonna make him kill?
What do you think?
Okay, we can go with that. I don't think Stain poses even like a moderate threat to him, because even if he licks him, it would count like his blood. Somehow, if he could even get his blood, Izuku's completely immune to all curses or abilities that like debuff him, so it would just be nullified by the blessing.
But Stain would be really OP against fighting with the Monarch. If Izuku could somehow draw blood from them and Stain could somehow get his hands on said blood, they're paralyzed.
It could limit their movement. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, again, like it doesn't always work though. Like on the Monarchs, like so the reason that doesn't work on Monarchs is because they don't have actual bodies. So their bodies are spiritual. Like So the only reason that he could attack them is because he also is a Monarch. Like I think
but
where we
didn't
go from here
Andres
is
fight against one of the Monarchs though?
Yes, but he couldn't kill it. He could not kill him. He did fight them. They fought, but he was not able to win. Like he couldn't actually finish them off.
Okay.
It was the Beast Monarch, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, during the hero killer stuff, we can either make Izuku be the one investigating, which I think would be interesting too, because he could like arise the soldiers of people who Stain kills to kind of hunt him down better. Or, this is something I think would be interesting. During the whole internship arc, we could have the dungeon break happen on Jeju Island with the ants, and we could have like Beru appear towards South Korea. And with like this huge S rank dungeon break, we could have the government and the Hunter Association / Hero Association approach Izuku, since he's already like a high rank hunter, asking if he'll go and join the strike team to attack Cheju, like the dungeon break.
Oh,
so we could have everyone
I like
else.
that. Yeah, cover that. That's so much more interesting.
Yeah, so I think All Might would be a part of the strike team as like an A rank healer. We'd have All Might and Izuku being sent from Japan to support South Korea. With this huge S rank dungeon having ripped open on Jeju Island, these ants would appear. Inside of the gap between dimensions, we would have had Beru be born and actually being the dungeon boss instead of having the Ant Queen, because otherwise the dungeon break, we'll just say, would have happened 10 years ago, and they're trying to strike again just to make sure people, just so cover your bases. So Izuku is summoned to attack, and unlike Jinu, who is more focused about the demon's tower, Izuku doesn't even know. He hasn't gone to the demon's castle yet. He doesn't know that there's a cure for his mom in there. The system hasn't told him, so he has not even attempted that dungeon yet, which is crazy. But it's fine. He would join All Might and the Japan team to go and attack Jeju Island, with everyone thinking things are going fine. Meanwhile, Stain would be attacking, and we also have the League of Villains taking advantage of All Might's absence, along with Izuku, with Endeavor appearing at the scene. Endeavor being an awakened hunter. Right? Are we taking Endeavor out of it?
You know what I just started thinking about? The fact that we didn't cover any of the students also like having like awakened powers.
Being awakened.
Like I just realized we could have made Todoroki so much of a cooler character had we given him some sort of cool awakening. But we completely missed that opportunity.
We were a little overzealous because of Izuku just having stat points for like a hilarious amount of points for no reason. Well, we know why, but anyway, I guess we can talk about it a little bit.
Nah, we don't have to.
It's already like a 2-hour long video.
We
can make it 7
hours. We're past that. Let's just keep let's finish
character
Jeju
relevance. Yeah. Okay. So let's ignore the students, as MHA does. Make it the Deku show. It's cool. Izuku at this point is on Jeju Island, right, with the 2 strike squads. We'd have the South Korean team. We'd have the Japan team. And it would be Izuku and All Might's job to kind of whittle down the ant forces on the island so that the Korean strike squad can enter and take out the dungeon boss. As things are going down, we would see as like the ants would be slowly getting whittled down before All Might would scream out as his arm gets decapitated, with him beginning to heal himself, saying, "Izuku, watch out!" Deku would turn around, turning as he sees it better than All Might can, grabbing its claws before All Might can be finished off, as he throws a punch at the creature, it having tried to take out All Might first as the weaker link. Beru, this is the Ant King, would arrive, with Izuku versus the Ant King beginning. We see as Izuku would summon Igris and the other shadow soldiers, and even Igris would have a hard time keeping up here. With all the ants, he would have to use Arise to even have a bit of a fight. At this point, Izuku's stats are so high though, that the challenge of the Ant King is nothing. Just by himself, Izuku's stats is just ridiculous, to the point where even though the Ant King is powerful enough to throw punches that actually hurt, Izuku has full recovery. He has the store in the weapon shop. He has stats in the 400 to 500 range. Like, there is no universe in which the Ant King can defeat Izuku here. So I think we get him killing the Ant King and the raid being successful, with All Might thanking Izuku and looking down his hand that he had just healed. At this point, we would see kind of like the results of his fame and infamy, with all the cameras having recorded Izuku's battle, and the entire world seeing his strength, being one of the only S-rank hunters to basically solo clear an S-rank dungeon, which is putting him in question of being a national level hunter, just like other hunters in the world. But regardless, everyone would go back to Japan. The Stain hero killer situation would have been resolved with him offsite, with him having used Arise and naming Beru, now having Igris and Beru at his side. The interesting question here is, because Beru ate All Might's arm, does he have the healing abilities and the ability to speak English / All Might's memories? What do you think?
I think that because he did that, he easily is able to speak English. Also, it's just one of those things where it's like, come on, we want him to speak English. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. Well, or Japanese if you do subs, who knows?
Correct.
But yeah, yeah. Arise, arise. All right. Anyway, yeah. It's been so from here. It kind of breaks down into two paths, and we talked about this a little bit. Xehther, you can decide how we go from here. At this point, the monarchs have waited long enough. Ashbourne is getting impatient.
He's barely getting impatient.
Yeah, Izuku hasn't cleared the dungeon with the Demon King. He hasn't saved his mom yet. Where do we go from here? Does he take on the Demon Castle? Is that his summer internship? Does he not go to the training camp? Do the monarchs attack now without him being like having the Black Heart or having any of his like abilities like Shadow Exchange unlocked yet? Like what do you want to do from here?
My thing is just like like at this point, what we just pretty much cover this dude soloing everyone and everything.
He's so strong. It's not even a question of. The question is, does he win because the monarchs are so lazy that they're not attacking, and because he's strong, he's powerful, but he's not as strong as Blackheart Jinnu, which gives him all that mana and the unlocked abilities of the Shadow Monarch. Mm-hmm. So he can't really get that without getting the Black Heart by defeating the Demon Lord Baran, right? Like, so I'm kind of stuck here because if we follow how it should actually go, if the monarchs at this point haven't attacked yet, it would be crazy. It's been way too long, but let's say they don't. Does he take on the Demon Castle, just take it down, save his mom, get the Black Heart, and then the monarchs attack and we get like All For One and the other villains kind of like either supporting or helping fight against them? What do you think?
I say, honestly, I don't even know. Like I'm kind of stumped here. Honestly, I say you take the choice.
Okay, let's flip a coin because one of these is significantly longer than the other, and it's already been 2 hours of us yapping. So, all right, hey Google, flip a coin for us with heads being taking the Demon Castle and tails being the monarchs attack early.
Here's what I found on the web.
Wow, thanks.
Why did you give it the options? That's what I'm confused about. Just, hey Siri, flip a coin.
Google. Well, I had to say it too, so we knew. So I didn't just know. Hey Google, flip a coin. All right. It's heads. All right. What did I say again?
Dog, I have no idea. All I know is that Izuku now has Beru by his side. And now he has to... Dude, this dude literally just finished doing something insane. Practically saving like a freaking
like
country.
An entire country.
An entire country. And now he has to go back to school and worry about his freaking final exams. I could see at this point, like he makes it back to class and he's like... Oh, the final exams. At this point, I could just get a scene where like All Might just like looks at Deku and he just feels bad. Like this dude is the only reason they won that entire like dungeon raid thing. And now this dude has to go back to freaking Japan and be like take part in high school. Like, are they kidding him right now? All Might at this point would literally tell Nezu that like they have to do something for him. Like this kid is clearly more than powerful enough to become the number one hero.
The number one hero. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would agree.
And he's stuck in school. At this point, I could just kind of see like Nezu being like, very well, after he completes this year of UA, we can make him, pass. But for now, let's let him continue with his studies. You know what I mean? As Deku now has to take a written test, which is the hardest part, mind you. Like that's crazy. And then now he has to face off against like, who does he even fight, dude? Like I feel like he'd be exempt from it.
There's no one to fight. He should be the one they fight. They should make him the one that the other people fight.
Dude, like all the teachers are, even if all the teachers were to go up against him. Yep.
He just summons Beru and they're done.
They're going to put the weight on him as he's facing off against all the teachers.
That's actually a good idea.
And they're going to tell him he can't summon any of his shadows.
Yeah,
and
you can't use your summons.
they're gonna tell him he can't kill them, and they're gonna tell him he can't use weapons. So Deku's now just like looking at them, practically shackled up, not able to move, as every hero starts rushing at him.
Yeah.
The
He's
screen,
like the coat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The screen goes black, and it just pans to every single one of them beaten and bruised on the ground, including All Might.
Oh no.
Izuku off-screened
Yeah.
them. He literally off-screened.
Off-screen.
He off-screened them. And after that happens, like, Nezu just kind of says, "Well done, Izuku." He's like, "Now, if you don't mind, would you assist me in taking them back to the infirmary?" As Izuku now has to take all of his teachers to the infirmary.
Why is your Nezu voice so good?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, dude. I'm just
Why
him.
is it so cracked? It seems that way, man. I like it though. It's good.
All right. Right after that, we get the Quirk training camp. And I feel like this is
Demon Castle.
This is around the point where Deku, like, understanding, like, look, guys, I can't freaking train. Like, what do you guys want me to do? Like, you know what I mean? This is when Izuku would finally decide to, exactly what you said. He would go to the Demon Castle after having all of these things at his disposal now. Izuku would finally make his way towards, the Demon Castle. And considering the fact that he beat Beru, which was after the events of the Demon Castle, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that means,
you're right.
That means that Izuku would clear the Demon Castle. I still want him to meet that one demon girl and, like, make friends with her and stuff like that. Yeah, Essel.
Yeah.
But during the forest training camp arc, like, the first day, Deku comes back and he's, like, on fire. And everyone's, like, looking at him. And they're like, "Where'd you go?" He, like, left them.
He brings Kota with him.
Yeah.
And uses him he uses Kota to avoid the flames.
Nah, that's crazy. He's shooting little spurts of water.
That'd be really funny.
Kota, make sure I'm not dehydrated. Water, Kota, water. He's like that one guy in boxing matches who's like shooting water into their mouths.
He's the water boy. If Kota ever dies, he'd arise him as his water boy.
Erect. Okay, so I could see Izuku leaving during the like right as the monsters from Pixie Bob happen. Like Pixie Bob uses her mud creation quirk. Oh, and Deku just disappears.
That would be so cool though.
Yeah.
Dude, the Shadow Army versus like the Mud Golems would be kind of sick though.
That'd be sick, but it'd be so sad. It would be like a little kid running through like the ocean and just smashing sandcastles. That's how pitiful that fight would be. It's embarrassing. But yeah, Izuku would return. Izuku would return, and everybody at this moment is just like making curry. Bakugo's over there just doing his best, like cutting up all the chicken and stuff. And then Izuku says, "What's for dinner? I'm hungry," And then
walks up behind Bakugo and grabs him by the waist, smacks him on the ass type of stuff is what I'm hearing. Okay.
Whoa there, buddy. I didn't say all that. But
that's what you just said. That's what you. I'm just saying.
He's like word for word. That's what I said. Okay, whatever.
Where's dinner, honey? That's what you just said. Like, okay.
All right. So after that happens, now Deku has the elixir of freaking life. Like,
he did it in one. Wait. He said he did it in one day.
In one day.
Okay. I mean, I kind of disagree. I know he's strong. The real
he did it in 3 days.
Fair enough. We'll go with that. The reason why is because it's such a massive dungeon. Mm-hmm. It takes time to find the people, like to just find the entry passes. That's the reason he couldn't clear it that fast. But I agree.
He has Beru this time though, so Beru can just
and the ants.
Yeah.
Let's go with one day. He's already busted. Why not? Make him there. I was trying to make it so he wouldn't be there during the villain attack and Bakugo could be kidnapped so we could get all for one versus Izuku, but it's cool.
I mean, Bakugo wouldn't get kidnapped because they pop up like towards the 3 days later. And also, honestly, bro, I think that this enhanced version of he'd still get kidnapped. Here's what we could do. Let's say it takes him 3 days, even with Beru. After Beru and him arrive back, it would be on this particular night that the villains would attack. But Izuku at this moment would use his shadow swap technique, which means he has to have the hour cooldown so he can't get back, And as Izuku's having his reunion with his mom, mind you, she's still skinny.
Oh, you're making it so that that he heals her during the attack. I like that.
Yeah, he's healing her
that's a good
during
idea.
the attack, and he can't get back.
Oh, this is
That's
some
pretty
good
smart,
writing.
right?
I like it. I like
Yeah.
it. Nice.
So as this
nice.
happens,
Very good.
Deku's literally like hugging his mom, and they're both like crying. The room itself
Yeah.
would fill up with water, and it looks like an aquarium. At this point, like
He still has the tears
yeah,
ability.
both of them.
That's
are
how he
just,
kept himself cool in the demon's castle. He just cried.
He couldn't cry at that point, but you know,
Yeah.
he's just hugging on his mom, and he's like, "Mom," and she's like, "Izuku, you're my hero." You know what I mean? Him and her just make their way home, and he's like, "Mom, I got you a treat." She's like, "What?" He's like, "Remember how much you used to love these?" And he pulls out a cream puff, and she's just
Oh
like,
my!
son,
Bro is not mash.
You know what I
Bro
mean?
is not mash.
And you know, after this
Nah,
happens,
that's crazy.
you know, him and his mom, they're literally just having the best day of their lives, bro. Izuku's so
He would have
happy.
Kaisel. He could take her flying on Kaisel.
Dude, Izuku's like so happy with his mom right now. And then finally, after some time passes and his cooldown goes away, he returns back towards the forest training camp. But when he arrives, he's greeted to a portal
sea of flames.
of like a bunch of blue flame just going off everywhere. She's like, "What happened?" And then everybody just fills him in on the situation, and he just thinks to himself, "I was selfish." And now Bakugo, he would think he's fine. As from here, you know, like all the heroes and stuff like that, like they clean up, and Izuku finds
Does he
out.
put a shadow in all of his friends' shadows, like he does with Gina, like how Jinu does with Gina?
I think that he would actually, instead of needing to find Momo, it'd make more sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so he could just use his shadow.
Yeah, at first he was freaking out, but then he was like, wait, I'll just teleport to him. And so right after this happens, like an hour would pass, the villains are like interrogating Bakugo. He's like, "Go to hell, you damn villain." You would just see Deku pop up in the middle of everything, and Shigaraki just pees himself, dude. Like,
No, this is too soon. How did they find us so quickly?
what's up with the
That's how Shigaraki sounds.
Okay, fair enough.
That's how he sounds.
Okay,
He's itching his
dude,
neck.
You
Yeah,
gotta
he's got that
cover
skimp.
you gotta cover him soloing every single one. I'm gonna let you do that.
Soloing. Okay. All right, guys. I know this has been kind of devolving into ridiculousness, but we started strong. Okay. I want everyone to remember that.
We did. I actually
we
think
did.
that if I was listening to this, what if I'd have a blast. That's just me.
thank
What?
you.
Okay, be honest, y'all. What do you guys think about this video so far? I know he's overpowered, and me and Weeb have just been trolling the whole time. But like,
Yeah.
you know, it's fun. Like, you can't even say it's not a good listen. You know?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I've been having a good time. I don't know if everyone here will say the same, but it's
I
been
haven't
fun.
felt the 2 hours, if that makes sense. That's how you know you're having a good time.
Oh yeah. Well, it's also just because it's solo leveling and we have an addiction. So
We do have an addiction.
anyway, Izuku arrives and he's pissed. For reference, for my manga readers, we have like the anger of Hon Dong-soo when he kidnapped Jinho. That's the type of scene I'm getting right here. So we get like a dark Deku. Like he's got his murderous intent full blast. Everyone, all the villains are shitting themselves. Toga's coming. We have like Shigaraki like, "No, it was a mistake." And then he's like, "Beru, take Kachan and get him out of here. I'll take care of the villains. I was just thinking of adding more soldiers to my army."
That's
no,
sick.
no,
If
I
you
don't
would have redo that, because that would have been such a sick delivery line.
Beru, take Kachan and get out of here.
I will, my
I was
liege.
just thinking I'd like to add a few more soldiers to my army. As he says this, he would look at Shigaraki and grip his hand as he splits forward, throwing a punch. At this moment, All For One would activate that puddle quirk, where he can teleport the League of Villains, trying to get them out of there. As he would arrive on the scene, the punch would connect with Shigaraki's face, blowing the hand that was the mask on his face off, as he'd have an indentation to his cheek, his bottom jaw getting snapped off from the fist that Deku had thrown. He'd be coughing while trying to talk, blood would be spurting out from his neck, as he's like, father, just basically screaming for All For One to help him. At this point, All For One would arrive, with him saying, "You've been making light work of my soldiers. I've been seeing you on the news, Izuku Midoriya. Or should I say, The newest version of the Shadow Monarch. What? Izuku would be shocked, wondering how he knows about this title from the system. It's at this point that his sense skill would go off, as we notice a golden light surrounding All for One. This would be the fragment of luminosity, being the strongest fragment of the rulers. The rulers having now put their power into this world, trying and fight back against the magic power that had been slowly corrupting it, with the S-rank dungeon break from Jeju Island being the snapping point that had begun to allow the monarchs and rulers to invade the world. All for One would explain, "I've been getting stronger since that fight with All Might. After awakenings occurred, well, take a look for yourself." As All for One would hold his hand up, the world will begin to tremor as he uses Ruler's Hand, the ability to grab things telekinetically, just like Izuku has, pulling on Izuku towards him as he throws his hand out, using his quirk-stealing ability. I think at this moment, it wouldn't work for obvious reasons because the system's not a quirk, but I think Izuku would be freaked out from it, with Beru now also feeling the anxiety from him. We have like Izuku now versus All for One with Igris and the other Shadow Soldiers being summoned. We have the League of Villains being sent away with Shigaraki's face having been all like messed up, and him holding like a personal grudge against Deku now. We have Izuku basically throwing fisticuffs with All for One. He would throw a punch using Ruler's Hand and counteracting the gravity abilities. However, All for One is making up for the gap in strength with his variety of abilities. Because now, All for One is not only awakened and most likely an S-rank hunter, he would also have the abilities of all the heroes whose quirks he had taken. Meaning that those abilities are also enhanced from the mana from his being an awakened being. So, I think it would be not close, but it would be akin to Thomas Andre versus Jinu, where we have like Thomas Andre like kind of putting up a fight, but everyone is watching as Izuku's kind of just brutalizing him, like punching his helmet in, his ventilator breaking. All Might would eventually show up to the scene, with the heroes not having enough time to get there for the initial stages of the fight, obviously, but he'd watch as Deku is just beating on this man. He'd be like, "Izuku, stop! Like, you're gonna kill him!" Izuku would turn, his eyes filled with bloodlust as a cold blue light would emanate from them.
Green, it'd be green. It has to be green.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm just, we could make it green, but I'm just trying to,
I'll just recolor it.
Yeah, just recolor it. It's all good. He'd turn back All Might saying, "You want this filthy piece of trash to live after everything he did to you and everyone in society? I won't stand for it," as he pulls his fist back, prepared to kill him. All Might would hold his hand out, trying to grab his arm, saying, "Izuku, stop it!" With All for One trying to take this opportunity to escape, Izuku would not have it. Like, come on, he's gonna try and off him, right? Like,
nah, he kills him, bro. He's not gonna try. He's gonna successfully murder this dude in front of All Might, with All Might's arm grabbing Deku's and pulling as hard as he can.
We have Izuku saying "smash" as he just crushes All for One. So
his skull gets bent in.
Yeah.
And All Might's arm, with everything he has, would
break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does nothing.
Yeah, I think to add to why Izuku's pissed off, we need to have the League of Villains low-key have been torturing Bakugo. Like, they probably should have been torturing him.
Oh yeah,
so in retrospect,
it'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be much cooler. Yeah, that's why he's so mad in my head, for reference. I don't think we said that.
I like that.
But they were torturing Bakugo, so he was pissed. All for One is dead. Izuku would use Arise, now summoning All for One as his soldier and naming him Greed, as in the
Greed.
the embodiment of greed.
And he makes him lay down and freaking just start
begging him for,
down to him. Yeah, that's
exactly.
crazy.
You like it?
I like it. I'm glad I let you cook on this part, because I wasn't thinking about adding that scene to this. That's pretty sick. I like it. After that, the Force training camp is finally done. Now we pretty much just jump to the events of the Provisional Hero License arc. And like I said, Izuku still has to complete this first year of UA High, so he's there. Mind you, everyone else taking the event is literally just like, why is he here? You know what I mean? Because they're like, please, don't make us fight him. You know, and Izuku's just like he's just like sitting there, like
Don't make us fight him.
he can hear everyone like freaking out, and he's just
so
like
funny.
he's like, I quit. You know what I mean? He's like,
I quit.
he remembers what
Okay,
it's
okay.
like to stand in front of
Sorry.
overwhelming power, so he's not being mean about it. You know,
Bro's having mercy.
the association was wondering what he would do, and they're like, well, he's gonna become a hero soon anyway, so he just kind of passes that. Due to the fact that Deku's already leagues and leagues stronger than Bakugo, I could see Bakugo pretty much never having to be like, hey Deku, let's fight because I caused All Might's downfall, you know? And so
Yeah.
this now finally leads us to the
Not
Overhaul
Izuku
arc.
caused his downfall. Yeah.
No, All Might is strong. He has his own healing
Yeah, no.
ability.
I agree. I'm just saying, like, in this case, Izuku caused his downfall by breaking his arm.
Yeah.
And taking his aura.
All
Yeah.
Might has a cast. Like, he's been having to wear a cast for the past week.
Yeah.
It's
I
a lot
still don't approve
funnier.
of you killing all. I think it's funny. I think it's good.
I like it. Okay, after this Overhaul arc, here's what I'm thinking happens. Just like in the original, Mirio and the rest of the big three would be introduced to Class 1A. But here's my own interpretation of this. Izuku's going to solo him. So Mirio's not going to be able to do the whole showing off thing. And because of the nature of that, I can just sort of see Izuku letting Mirio like take out the rest of the class and him being super impressed with him. As we would essentially get a scene in which Mirio and Izuku, like, they fight with Izuku holding back, like, demonstratively, you know what I mean? Like, a lot. And then we pretty much get a moment where he pretty much just becomes friends with Mirio, leading to the internship at Overhaul, because we kind of need the dominoes to fall for this to all happen. Dude,
I got you.
when he meets Overhaul and sees Eri literally going through what she was going through, there's not a person alive who's going to stop Deku from brutalizing
saving her?
Overhaul. Yeah. Cover that. I want you to do the honors.
Okay. So first off, I think the biggest difference here, because of his abilities as the Shadow Monarch, is you remember that scene where Mirio and Izuku were kind of like doing patrols and investigating still because there was no proof that Eri was being held against her will?
Yeah.
This time, Izuku can do something about it. He would place one of his shadow soldiers inside of Eri's shadow, tracking and being able to observe what's happening to her. Essentially because he can use that ability with the shadow sense to observe and see what's going on. So once again, there's just that ability being overpowered. And we could see Night Eye and the other heroes like contemplating it as he's watching. The moment that Overhaul would begin like trying to like torture her, or basically make more quirk erasing bullets. One thing that'd be interesting though, like to kind of get into the lore of Overhaul, is his view of like hunters and gates. So Overhaul views quirks as a disease. Do you think he would also view hunters and like magic power and quirks in the same way, like the eternal sleep disease? So maybe he's trying to find a way to get rid of hunters and like the awakened beings as well.
I actually like that idea, but my thing with that is that it just wouldn't work. I could see Overhaul's only goal being that because he knows he can't stop the magic stuff.
Yeah, so I think maybe he would not like it, but even like Ares' erasure ability doesn't necessarily work because it's not like a quirk factor where there's a genetic code that can be rewound to like a prior state of humanity. The magic power is kind of attached to specific people and like their soul, so it doesn't really work. I could see him trying and experimenting with it, but it just not being effective. On another note, I think Ares' quirk would be really interesting on how it would affect Izuku, if it even did. I don't know if it would because of him being like a high like powered advanced being, but if she could rewind his stats, like how the Cup of Reincarnation and stuff works, that would be like the only threat to Izuku. I'm gonna say no though because of his debuff ability.
That'd be kind of sick, like a Cup of Reincarnation thing, but because no one's died, he wouldn't really need that. Yeah. Dude, it would be sick though to see Izuku, like the hand is inching closer and closer to Eri, and as this happens, Izuku just teleports in and just smashes Overhaul's face and like his entire body into a concrete wall. Like, I don't know if you remember how thick those walls were, but Overhaul just gets like fodderized.
Looney Tunes silhouette. Yeah.
After this
Okay,
happens,
I
he
like it.
turns to Eri, his bloodlust instantly turning off, and he gives her the biggest, warmest smile she's seen before. And he tells her she'll never have to be scared again. After this, you could just see like Beru like bowing down to Deku and saying, "My liege, I've taken down every other threat in the building." As
That's
you know,
wonderful.
they walk through it and all of them are just like knocked out and unconscious.
I like
As
that Beru sounds like Shigaraki. That's funny.
from here, we just pretty much get Deku walking Eri out. And the very last scene to this what if that I'm going to be giving you guys is Eri watching the little UA school festival. You know, Deku's over there
Yeah.
singing with the microphone.
We got the shadow soldiers dancing and being backup dancers.
Literally, I was going to say that. And
Yeah,
Eri's just
I like it.
smiling, eating her little candy apple. She's like giving the biggest, brightest smile.
Hey, you made it to the end of the video! Like it or die!
That wasn't the line, Kachan!
Whatever!